Chapter 146. Guess who can be ranked in the 100-sword spectrum? Although this sword manual was compiled by the Sword Reverend City, who knows if they added in their own ideas. If this sword manual doesn't gain everyone's approval, it's no different from a piece of scrap paper. That's right. In the end, it still depends on the quality of this sword manual. In the public square of the Sword Reverend City, countless sword cultivators were discussing fervently. Not long after, the disciples of the Feng clan finally appeared under the expectant gazes of the crowd. They took out a sword manual and hung it on the wall. A huge sword manual appeared in front of everyone. The names of the famed swords and their owners were all listed on it. Everyone immediately looked at the first line of the swordplay manual. That was the first position. Number 1 in the 100-sword spectrum. Kunwu sword. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. Have you heard of the Kunwu sword? It's a little unfamiliar but also a little familiar. Who is the sword master? Nonsense, how can I not be familiar with him? We've just seen this sword before. It's the one in Chu Kuangren's hand. The one with a sword soul? Yes. The wielder of the descendant self-sword, Chu Kuangren? Is it really him? Many sword cultivators pondered. It was reasonable to say that the Kunwu sword, which had integrated with the sword soul, was the best sword in the world. However, the 100-sword spectrum was not only ranked by the quality of the swords, but also by the strength of the sword owner. Chu Kuangren could be ranked as the best swordsman in the world? Everyone was doubtful. However, when he recalled how Zhang Xian had defeated the 7 heroes of the Way of the Sword a few days ago, he couldn't help but shudder. He was starting to believe in Zhang Xian. Damn it, this guy can't be treated as an ordinary member of the younger generation. He's ranked first and I'm speechless. Quick, look who's in second place. The 100-sword spectrum is ranked second, the Imperial Sun Sword. Its wielder is Murong Feng, the Black Warrior region's revered swordsman Murong. This person is a supreme revered martial artist. The Imperial Sun Sword in his hand has defeated countless revered swordsmen over the years. In third place is Honorable Shen Qi's Purple Star, the number 1 honorable swordsman in our Azure Dragon domain. I can't believe he's ranked behind Chu Kuangren. The crowd continued to read along the 100 swords register, and the names of the famous swords and their owners gradually came into view. Aside from the fact that Chu Kuangren was ranked first, which was still controversial, the rest of the rankings were acknowledged by many. The value of this 100-sword spectrum was very high. It was conceivable that if the 100-sword spectrum were to be circulated, it would definitely cause a great sensation in the world, especially in the world of swordsmanship. Among the crowd, Chu Kuangren had also seen the 100-sword spectrum. When he saw the sword masters on it, a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. He discovered that among the 7 heroes of the sword, who were very famous in the Azure Dragon domain, apart from venerable swordsmen of 1,000 cries who managed to squeeze into the top 30, the rest were all ranked outside the top 50 in the 100-sword spectrum. The standard of this 100-sword spectrum is indeed very high, but I don't think it's appropriate for Chu Kuangren to take first place. At that moment, a sword cultivator could not help but voice out his doubts. I admit that Chu Kuangren is very strong, but there are so many strong swordsman cultivators in this world. If even his honorable teacher is only ranked third, how can he be ranked first? A disciple from the Feng clan said, the clan master said that fellow Taoist Chu's Kunwu sword is the only famous sword in this world with a sword soul. Just based on this, it is qualified to be ranked number 1. A sword with a sword soul was too rare. One could not find a second one in this world. Sword Prayer City had been forging swords for generations, so it would be unreasonable for such a famous sword to not be ranked number 1. Such an explanation was not out of the crowd's expectations, and the crowd's doubts were then put to rest. After the 100-sword spectrum was announced, it gradually spread out. Chu Kuangren's ranking as number 1 caused quite a stir. After some investigation, people also found out that he had consecutively killed the 7 heroes of the sword in Sword Prayer City. Although it was shocking, the 100-sword spectrum's number 1 title was too much of a concern, and many people still found it hard to believe. Chu Kuangren actually knew about this in his heart. However, he did not care. Not convinced? Then come and fight him. Who's afraid of who? Unless it was a sage, Chu Kuangren was confident that he could even fight an honorable supreme in front of him with the Kunwu sword. This is the Kunwu sword scabbard. On this day, Chu Kuangren received the scabbard sent by Feng Xuanzi. The scabbard was pure white and engraved with beautiful patterns. The half-melted demonic spear has finally completed the task of forging this scabbard. Little friend, would you like to try it? Feng Xuanzi said. Sure. Chu Kuangren nodded and took out the Kunwu sword. The moment the sword appeared, An uncontrollable sharp qi permeated the air. The surrounding air seemed to be filled with countless tiny swords, and even Feng Xuanzi felt like his skin was being cut. Tsk, if this sword didn't have a scabbard, it would definitely be very eye-catching. Feng Xuanzi was amazed. He also noticed that the Kunwu sword's qi was stronger than it was a few days ago. This sword was still evolving. Even if it was slow, it was still happening. Chu Kuangren sheathed the Kunwu sword into the scabbard. Suddenly, the sharp qi in the air dissipated, and the sword and scabbard fit seamlessly. It was perfect. The Kunwu sword gently trembled, very satisfied with the scabbard. It was like a beautiful young lady who had received a set of beautiful clothes. It's very fitting. Thank you, Senior Feng. Ah, there's nothing to thank me for. I've taken the rest of the demonic spear's materials. I've earned a lot too. Feng Xuanzi laughed. Chu Kuangren laughed and continued to chat with Feng Xuanzi. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren and Feng Xuanzi seemed to have sensed something. They looked into the distance and saw a burst of light, and waves of Taoist rhymes reverberated in the sky. I, Whitelock, shall preach to the people in 7 days. An indifferent voice echoed throughout half of the Azure Dragon domain. The whole domain was shocked. Even Chu Kuangren was surprised. A sage had appeared. Whitelock sage is going to preach again, Feng Xuanzi exclaimed. Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. Again? Yes, Whitelock sage is different from the other sages. He will appear every once in a while and preach for the welfare of the people. The last time he preached was 100 years ago. I see. Chu Kuangren was a little interested. Are there any conditions to listen to the sage's preaching? Of course. As the saying goes, Taoism cannot be taught easily. Without a certain level of cultivation and understanding of Taoism, one can't listen to the sage's preaching. If one forcefully listens to the sage's preaching, even their Taoist core may be affected. Feng Xuanzi said. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and said, a sage's preaching is a grand event. Besides, there are some things that I'd like to ask the sage for. Senior Feng, I shall take my leave now. Alright, I won't keep you. Listening to the sage's preaching was an opportunity of fortune, so Feng Xuanzi naturally would not hold Chu Kuangren back and ruin his opportunity of fortune. The news of the sage's preaching spread throughout the world in just a day. Many cultivators rushed to the sage's Taoist grounds. Whitelock sage is preaching again. Let's go and listen. My cultivation wasn't strong enough last time, so I couldn't listen to the sage's preaching. This time I can't miss it. Chapter 147. Congratulations, host. You have drawn a legendary attribute, Boulder Taoist Core. On this day, Chu Kuangren drew his gacha as usual on the ferry boat. He was slightly surprised when he saw the prize. Even with the lucky halo, it was still rare for him to draw a legendary item. His luck was off the charts when he drew the immortal godly phoenix the last time. After drawing the Boulder Taoist Core, Chu Kuangren did not feel any obvious changes. He only received some information about the attribute. The Boulder Taoist Core, as the name suggested, meant that the Taoist heart was as firm as a rock and could not be moved. It was a very useful attribute. There was a saying in the cultivation world that techniques were easy to learn, but the Taoist heart was hard to cultivate. The Taoist heart was very important to a cultivator. A cultivator with a strong Taoist heart might not be able to reach the peak in the future, but every powerful cultivator who stood at the peak would have a strong Taoist heart. Seventh Forefather, do you know anything about this Whitelock sage? Chu Kuangren asked on the ferry boat. The seventh forefather appeared and nodded. Whitelock sage is quite famous in Firmament Star. Of course I know about him. This person does not belong to any orthodoxy, but he would preach to the masses every once in a while and has accumulated a lot of merit points. Many powerful cultivators have listened to this person's preaching. It's no small matter that he has students all over the world. Chu Kuangren noticed a phrase that the seventh forefather mentioned and asked, preaching to the masses can accumulate merit points? The seventh forefather nodded. Of course, but only the first preaching is the most effective. That's why many sages preach to the masses when they become sages to accumulate merit points. Later on it gets lesser. It's very rare to see someone like Whitelock sage who preaches to the masses every once in a while. He's probably the only one in this world. Chu Kuangren nodded. That's interesting. Does he have a purpose for accumulating merit points? Although merit points are mysterious, ordinary merit points are useless to sages unless it's a huge amount of merit points. I guess Whitelock sage just likes to collect it. Perhaps. Chu Kuangren stopped thinking about it. The place where Whitelock sage preached was located in a mountain range. Due to Whitelock Sage's presence, the mountain range was also called Whitelock Mountain. Currently, the white-browed mountain was packed with people and bustling with activity. The Great Sword Tournament paled in comparison to it. After all, the Great Sword Tournament only attracted sword cultivators, while the Sage's Tao lecture attracted cultivators from all over the world. There were even quite a few supreme beings among them. Look, it's Ao Chang from the Holy Land of Serene Wisdom. At this moment, an immortal boat arrived, attracting the attention of many people. Everyone looked over and saw a few cultivators from the Holy Lands of Serene Wisdom disembarking from the ferry boat. Leading them was young Emperor Ao Chang. As a young emperor, Ao Chang's reputation was even greater than some of the honorable ones. His appearance attracted a lot of attention. Not only Ao Chang but also Gu Chang'e and Yuan Hong. Ziyang Valley's Lin Badian is here too. A few young emperors from the sage orthodoxies took the stage one after another. Many people immediately started discussing. I didn't expect these young emperors to come and listen to the sage's preaching. That's normal. Even a young emperor wouldn't miss out on such an opportunity. Aren't they from the sage orthodoxy? There should be a sage behind him. Why did he come here to listen to the white-browed sage's Tao lecture? Idiot, haven't you heard of this saying? Who said that a sage in one's own orthodoxy can't listen to another sage's preaching? That's true. Buzz. At this moment, a bolt of lightning dashed towards them from afar and turned into a blue-haired young man in a white robe. An extremely powerful aura spread in the air. There were fine electric arcs dancing in the air, scaring many cultivators. Who is this? Why is he so arrogant? Shu, lower your voice. This is the ancient sky pride of the Thunder Falcon tribe, Lei Mingtian. He's also a young emperor and the first one to obtain the emperor's essence. His combat power is even stronger than Ao Chang and the others. Yes, don't offend him. This person is very overbearing and has the backing of the sacred tribe. He's not to be trifled with. At this moment, a blood-red light burst out from the crowd. A young man in a blood-red robe slowly walked towards Lei Mingtian. The two of them stared at each other and their auras clashed. The appearance of this person shocked many people. It's the young emperor of the Yeksha tribe, Spirit Blood Child. Tisk Tsk, among the young emperors of the Azure Dragon domain, Spirit Blood Child is probably the only one who can be compared to Lei Mingtian. Rumor has it that the two of them fought last year. Although I don't know who won, it seems like they don't have a good relationship. The surrounding cultivators were waiting to watch the show. Some of the honorable ones were also curious about the level of these young emperors. Why, Spirit Blood Child, do you want to fight again? Lei Mingtian asked coldly. Spirit Blood Child's devilish face revealed a smile. I haven't seen you for so long, but you're still as overbearing as ever, Lei Mingtian. If you want to fight, I'll gladly oblige. Spirit Blood Child's aura surged and he showed no signs of backing down. My friends, this is Whitelock Mountain where the sages reside. Please restrain yourself, Wu Chenzi said calmly. Spirit Blood Child's eyes flashed. Although he did not show any signs of backing down, he did not take another step forward either. Lei Mingtian, on the other hand, glared coldly at Wu Chenzi. What right do you have to talk to me like that? I'm just reminding you. Don't you think you've gone overboard with your words? Wu Chenzi was a little angry. Oh, is that so? Lei Mingtian suddenly raised his hand and a violent lightning-based Taoist rhyme erupted. Without saying a word, he threw a punch. Wu Chenzi's expression changed slightly as he channeled his spiritual power to defend himself. However, when the two forces collided, Wu Chenzi was forced back dozens of feet. Fine electric arcs danced on his body as he was injured in one move. Lei Mingtian's strength shocked the crowd. Even Wu Chenzi was surprised. They were both young emperors, but Lei Mingtian's strength was at least one level higher than his. Gu Chang'e, Yuan Hong, Ao Chang, and the other young emperors were stunned and their expressions became extremely serious. This Lei Mingtian's strength cannot be underestimated. I'm afraid he's on par with an honorable. If I were to fight him, my chances of winning are not high. He's indeed the first young emperor to obtain the emperor's essence. I'm afraid that not many young emperors can match his understanding of the Tao. Ao Chang and the others thought to themselves. After Lei Mingtian injured Wu Chenzi in one move, his expression became even more arrogant. Do you think people like you are worthy of being called young emperors? It's a waste for the primordial emperor's essence to be used on you. His words were not only directed at Wu Chenzi but also at Ao Chang, Yuan Hong and the others. The young emperor's expressions turned ugly in an instant. They glared at Lei Mingtian with anger in their eyes. Even the guardians behind them were furious. However, this was a matter between the younger generation, so it was not appropriate for the guardians to intervene. Moreover, Lei Mingtian's guardian was also secretly watching them. Damn it, I really hope that someone will come out and teach this Lei Mingtian a lesson. He's so infuriating. One of the guardians cursed in the void. The other guardians could not help but smile bitterly. Although they also disliked Lei Mingtian, they had to admit that he was strong. Among the sky prides present, only Xuelingzi could stand up to him. Chapter 148. Just as young Emperor Lei Mingtian was acting arrogantly. In the sky above Whitelock Mountain, a ferry boat arrived and a man and a woman slowly walked down from it. Both of them were peerlessly beautiful. Upon seeing these two, Guchanga and the other young emperor's expressions changed slightly. They stared at the newcomer with fear in their eyes. This scene was noticed by many cultivators. Everyone was stunned. Even when Lei Mingtian was so domineering, Guchanga Ao Chang and the others were only wary of him. How could they be afraid of this newcomer? By the heavens, who is this person? Many people were bewildered. However, some of them recognized the newcomer. It's him, the Black Heaven sect's elder senior brother, Chu Kuangren. The crowd was in an uproar. Chu Kuangren had been in closed-door meditation for 3 years, but he had defeated several young emperors the moment he came out. Coupled with the fact that he had obtained the Sword Soul in Sword Prayer City and was ranked number 1 in the 100-sword spectrum, his fame in the Azure Dragon domain was unparalleled. It's been 3 years. This guy has finally appeared. I didn't believe it when they said that Chu Kuangren has a godly appearance, but now that I've seen him, he really does live up to his reputation. He's so extraordinary. Chu Kuangren is here too. This is going to be even more exciting. Some of the Sky Pride's protectors could not help but shudder when they saw Chu Kuangren. They could vaguely sense a sense of danger. Compared to 3 years ago, he's even more terrifying now. After 3 years of closed-door meditation, how strong is he now? Many of the protectors thought to themselves. Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu arrived in front of the crowd and smiled. Greetings, fellow Taoists. Unlike Lei Mingtian's domineering entrance, Chu Kuangren was extremely polite. Coupled with his already handsome face, many people immediately liked him. Some of the female cultivators were even dazzled by him. They're all Sky Prides, but why is there such a huge gap between them? Look at how polite Brother Chu is. He's not as rude as some people. Yeah, that's rare. Wow, Brother Chu is so handsome and he looks so gentle too. I love him so much. Greetings, Brother Chu. I've admired you for a long time. Now that I've seen you today, you truly live up to your reputation. Truly admirable. Everyone greeted Chu Kuangren one by one, and they were very friendly towards him. People were afraid of comparisons. Lei Mingtian's entrance was so domineering that many people were dissatisfied with it. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren was like a spring breeze, which naturally made him popular. You're Chu Kuangren? Lei Mingtian frowned as he stared at Chu Kuangren. His voice was laced with a hint of coldness. Chu Kuangren was puzzled. That's me. You were the one who killed the young emperor of the Thunder Falcon tribe. Although that young emperor was nothing special, he was still a rare genius of the Thunder Falcon tribe. I think you'll have to pay for this, Lei Mingtian said in a chilling tone. After he woke up, he had a general understanding of the Thunder Falcon tribe's situation. He had also learned about the things that Chu Kuangren had done. Upon hearing Lei Mingtian's words, Chu Kuangren came to a sudden realization. He then chuckled and said, So, you're from the Thunder Falcon tribe. No wonder there's a foul stench in the air. So it's because of you, a feathered beast. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. No one expected Chu Kuangren to scold Lei Mingtian right off the bat. Not only did he scold him, but he also dragged the entire Thunder Falcon tribe into it. What happened to being a handsome gentleman? Ao Chang, Lin Badian, and the other Sky Prides were not surprised at all. It was obvious that this situation was within their expectations. Gentle? Handsome gentleman? It's all an illusion. When this guy gets cocky, no one can compare to him. Lin Badian snorted. I can't believe that Lei Mingtian dared to provoke this madman. He's going to suffer. Yuan Hong shook his head and sighed. He looked at Lei Mingtian with a hint of pity. They were all Sky Prides who had fought against Chu Kuangren before, so they knew better than anyone how powerful this madman was. It was true that Lei Mingtian was strong, but in their eyes he was nowhere near Chu Kuangren. They might not even be on the same level. You're courting death. Lei Mingtian's expression darkened. His figure turned into a flash of lightning and appeared in front of Chu Kuangren in the blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that not many people could react in time. All they saw was Lei Mingtian unleashing a punch. His knuckles crackled with the power of lightning as he punched towards Chu Kuangren's chest. That punch pierced through Chu Kuangren's body. Lei Mingtian was delighted. Chu Kuangren is just SOSO. Wait. Before Lei Mingtian could smile, he realized that the Chu Kuangren that he had punched did not feel real at all. All he saw was Chu Kuangren vanishing into thin air. An afterimage? I can't believe his speed is so fast. Lei Mingtian was shocked. He then used his spiritual thought to search for Chu Kuangren, only to find out that he had appeared behind him. Lightning surged around Lei Mingtian's body, and he turned into a ray of lightning again. Your speed is not bad, Chu Kuangren said calmly before he used the phantom light strike technique. The crowd could only see two rays of light colliding in midair. Each time they collided, a terrifying shockwave would erupt. Both of them were too fast. Even the honorables could only see a blurry image. Boom. At that moment, a ray of light was smashed down from midair, and a huge crater was formed on the ground. The surrounding cultivators quickly dodged it. The crowd looked closely and saw that the person lying in the crater was Lei Mingtian. His hair was disheveled and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Chu Kuangren, who was in midair. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, was standing in midair, fiddling with his fingers. A terrifying human mountain Taoist rhyme still lingered on his fingertips. It was obvious that Lei Mingtian was at a disadvantage in the previous battle. What did you say just now? You want me to pay the price? I'm curious, who gave you the courage to say that? Chu Kuangren put down his hand and looked down at Lei Mingtian, who was lying in the dust. The crowd noticed that there was a sword hanging on his waist. It was an incomparably white and gorgeous long sword. They all knew that Chu Kuangren was an expert in swordsmanship, and the descendant self-sword in his hand was a peerless divine sword that was fused with a sword soul. However, Chu Kuangren had already suppressed Lei Mingtian without even drawing his sword. If he were to draw his sword, how strong would his combat strength be? Chu Kuangren. Lei Mingtian gritted his teeth, and the lightning energy that flashed on his body became more violent and intense. It was as if his entire body was wrapped in a huge ball of lightning. Boom. A terrifying lightning-based Taoist rhyme instantly erupted, turning into a thick lightning pillar that was blasted out with mysterious runes circulating within it. Child's play. Chu Kuangren lifted his hand and slammed it down. The terrifying human mountain strength suddenly erupted, shattering the lightning pillar. Then he pressed down with his palm again, and an incredibly majestic earth chi erupted, condensing into an ancient godly mountain that fell towards Lei Mingtian. The human mountain strength was incredibly majestic, and its chi was locked onto Lei Mingtian, making it impossible for him to evade. In the face of such a powerful attack, Lei Mingtian tried his best to defend himself, and the violent lightning struck the godly mountain one after another. Chapter 149. As the power of the human mountain gradually dissipated, Lei Mingtian was lying on the ground with his bones broken and blood flowing non-stop. He had been severely injured in just one move. He wanted Chu Kuangren to pay the price, but he did not expect to be beaten half to death in just a few moves. Lei Mingtian's protector's expression changed drastically. He quickly appeared and guarded Lei Mingtian while staring at Chu Kuangren warily. At the same time he was extremely shocked. He had guessed that Chu Kuangren was strong, but he did not expect him to be this strong. Chu Kuangren had severely injured Lei Mingtian in just a few moves, and he did not even use his strongest sword Dao technique. It was too terrifying. Even some of the older honorables might not have such combat strength. The other cultivators were also shocked, especially the Sky Pride's protectors. Although they were happy to see Lei Mingtian in such a miserable state, they were more afraid of Chu Kuangren's current strength. How were their Sky Pride supposed to fight against such an existence? How could they possibly win against him? At that moment, the clouds in the distance rumbled, and a little Taoist boy in a Taoist robe with his hair tied into a bun slowly walked towards them. This Taoist boy did not seem to have a high cultivation level as he was only in the paradise realm. However, his body was glowing and he was wearing all sorts of treasures. The horsetail whisk in his hand was a rare sage weapon. Everyone could not help but feel a burning desire in their eyes. They could not wait to strip the little Taoist boy clean and take all the treasures for themselves. However, what the little Taoist boy said next made everyone give up on that idea. My teacher is waiting inside. Please follow me. The little Taoist boy said to the crowd. As long as they were not stupid, they could guess who the teacher he was referring to was. It was the sage of Whitelock Mountain. This little Taoist boy was one of the sage's people. The crowd followed the little Taoist boy into the depths of Whitelock Mountain, including Chu Kuangren. He did not even look at Lei Mingtian, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog. To him, Lei Mingtian was like a pebble by the roadside. If it was in his way, he could just kick it away. No one would fight to the death with a pebble. Not far away, Ao Chang, Lin Badian, and the others could not help but sympathize with Lei Mingtian when they saw that. The only reason they were still alive was not because Chu Kuangren could not kill them, nor was it because Chu Kuangren was afraid of starting a war between the orthodoxies. It was because they were insignificant to Chu Kuangren. Whether he killed them or not depended on his mood. Thinking of this, the few of them looked at each other with sorrow in their hearts. The most devastating thing in this world was to treat the other party as a lifelong enemy, but the other party didn't even take you seriously. This was especially the case for geniuses like Ao Chang and Yuan Hong. To them this was worse than death. Following the little Taoist boy, the group gradually entered the depths of the mountain range. But gradually they realized that something was wrong. The deeper they went, the heavier their footsteps became. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to move. Some supreme martial artists who had been here before were not surprised by the situation. "We're already within range of the Thousand Mountain Formation," a supreme being muttered. "What's a Thousand Mountain Formation?" Some cultivators were confused. The Thousand Mountain Formation is a formation set up by the sage. If you want to listen to the sage's Taoist teachings, you must first pass through this formation. That's right. The Thousand Mountain Formation only covers a radius of 1,000 feet, but every 10 feet is an additional mountain's force. That's why it's called the Thousand Mountain Formation. Even an honorable would find it difficult to pass through this formation. Some of the honorables who had been here before explained. Someone curiously looked at the little Taoist boy who was skipping around in front of them. Then why is he fine? He's just a Paradise Realm cultivator. Nonsense. He's a follower of the sage. How could the Thousand Mountain Formation affect him? Some cultivators noticed that the horsetail whisk in the little Taoist boy's hand was circulating with Taoist rhymes, helping him to offset the Thousand Mountain Formation's force. The Thousand Mountain Formation was only 1,000 feet wide. Most cultivators could cross 1,000 feet in the blink of an eye, but it was difficult for them to move an inch. Some of the weaker cultivators were immediately pressed to the ground the moment they stepped into the Thousand Mountain Formation. They could not even move a finger. Those who could walk were mostly cultivators above the Paradise Realm. Even so, it was extremely difficult for them to walk as their spiritual power was being depleted rapidly. The most infuriating thing was the little Taoist boy who was leading the way. Not only was he not affected by the Thousand Mountain Formation at all, he was even playing along the way. He was either chasing butterflies or squatting down to look at bugs and flowers. An hour passed, but they had only walked 2,000 feet. One had to know that every second they spent in the formation was an additional portion of spiritual power. "Little Taoist boy, can you walk faster?" One of the cultivators could not help but ask. The little Taoist boy replied without turning his head, "What's the hurry? The path ahead is even more difficult. If you can't take it anymore, then don't continue." The Thousand Mountain Formation added an additional mountain with every 10 feet. They were not even halfway through. If they could not take it anymore, it would be even more difficult later on. Everyone felt helpless when they heard that. That was true, but if they continued to deplete their spiritual power like that, it would be even more impossible for them to continue on. "Hey, it's a phoenix-tailed butterfly." Just then the little Taoist boy exclaimed when he saw a golden butterfly. He immediately ran up to it to catch it, but the butterfly flapped its wings and flew away. The little Taoist boy did not give in and immediately chased after it. The phoenix-tailed butterfly danced in the air before it finally stopped on a slender, fair finger. The little Taoist boy looked over and was shocked to see that Chu Kuangren had let the phoenix-tailed butterfly land on his finger without doing anything. Chu Kuangren smiled and handed the butterfly to the little Taoist boy. However, the little Taoist boy did not take it and only stared at him blankly. "Little brother, the butterfly is going to fly away if you don't take it," Chu Kuangren said. The little Taoist boy then reacted and put his palms together to hold the butterfly in his palms. After taking a closer look at it, he released it. He then looked at Chu Kuangren and said, "Big brother, you're so handsome. Even my master and the others aren't as handsome as you. Little brother, we can't let the sage wait for too long. Can we walk faster?" Chu Kuangren smiled. "All right then. Big brother, the road ahead is going to be tough. If you can't walk anymore, just hold my hand. With the horsetail whisk from my master, this formation won't work on you anymore," the little Taoist boy said proudly. He even opened the back door for Chu Kuangren in front of everyone. That made many cultivators' mouths twitch and their hearts fill with jealousy. **M**, a good-looking person is always popular everywhere. This Chu Kuangren is too handsome. He won't even let a little kid go, one of the cultivators lamented. In fact, the little Taoist boy was not only attracted to Chu Kuangren's good looks, but he was also attracted to Chu Kuangren's banished immortal aura. The little Taoist boy was born pure and kind, so he instinctively felt close to this kind of aura that made him feel comfortable. Just like how the butterfly got close to Chu Kuangren. The little Taoist boy quickened his pace and the crowd followed. Soon they had walked through half of the Thousand Mountain Formation. However, the further they walked, the stronger the formation's energy became. More and more people could not take it anymore. In the end, there were less than 5,000 people who could walk through the Thousand Mountain Formation and reach the sage's palace. Chapter 150. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm really tired. This Thousand Mountain Formation is too hard to walk. It's not easy to listen to a sage's Taoist preaching. In front of the sage's palace, almost half of the 5,000 people were lying on the ground, exhausted to the point of death. Even sky prides like Gu Chang'e and Ao Chang were panting slightly. It was obvious that they had used up a lot of energy and spiritual power. Lan Yu, are you alright? Chu Kuangren looked at Lan Yu, who was beside him. Her forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat as well. I'm fine. Big brother, you're amazing. At that moment, the little Taoist boy walked up to Chu Kuangren and said, your cultivation level is similar to theirs, but you're not tired at all. He pointed at Ao Chang, Lin Badian, and the other sky prides nearby. The faces of these people darkened. This brat. Why does he have to say it out loud? Maybe they're weak. Chu Kuangren smiled. Although they were in the same cultivation realm, their foundations were too far apart. Ao Chang and the others could not compare to him at all. Their faces turned even uglier when they heard him. They cursed in their hearts, you're the weak one, your whole family is weak. The crowd rested for a while before they looked at the majestic palace in front of them. Below the palace was a staircase that looked like it was made of white jade. The crowd gradually became excited. Is this the place where the sage preaches? The sage will face it here. Let's hurry up and get a good spot. That's right. Let's go. Some of the cultivators could not hold back their excitement and quickly stepped onto the staircase. However, after a few steps they stopped where they were. Their faces were either filled with fear or ecstasy. What's wrong with them? Some of the cultivators who wanted to step onto the staircase immediately stopped and looked at the cultivators who seemed to be behaving strangely. The little Taoist boy said, if you want to listen to the sage's Taoist preaching, you must not only pass the Thousand Mountain Formation, but also the mental staircase. There are 72 steps in the mental staircase. It can create all kinds of illusions to confuse you. If your Taoist core is not strong enough, you may fall into the illusion and be unable to extricate yourself. There are only two outcomes in this situation. The first is to be forcefully awakened by an external force. The second is to exhaust the spiritual power until the physical body dies. The little Taoist boy said with a smile. However, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Walking on the mental staircase was actually life-threatening? The sage won't just watch us die, right? A cultivator swallowed his saliva and said, there, look over there. The little Taoist boy pointed to the side of the palace. Everyone looked over and saw a pile of bones. Everyone had their own guesses. Those are the people who couldn't pass the test of the mental staircase and eventually succumbed to the illusion and died, the little Taoist child said. *CK, I'm really going to die. Everyone looked at the stairs and felt a little scared. A sage's lecture was indeed a good opportunity, but no matter how good an opportunity was, it would not be worth it if he lost his life. For a moment, many people had already begun to give up. Chu Kuangren shook his head and laughed. The mental staircase, the mental staircase, the staircase that tests one's Taoist core. What a coincidence. Young master, I'll give it a try, Lan Yu said. Then, her figure flashed as she stepped onto the mental staircase. She took 36 steps in a row and only slowed down on the 41st step. The illusions were starting to affect her. This sister's Taoist core is so strong. Even an honorable can't walk as fast as her, the little Taoist child said in surprise. Even a woman like her has such a strong Taoist core. I'm a man, but I'm so scared. How embarrassing. One of the cultivators gritted his teeth and rushed up the stairs. That's right. Cultivation has always been a matter of defying the heavens and changing one's fate. If we're always so overcautious, we might as well go home and farm. It's just a mental staircase. I don't believe I can't get on it. My Taoist core won't allow me to retreat. Some of the cultivators cheered themselves on before they stepped onto the mental staircase one by one to begin the test. Ao Chang, Gu Changa, Lin Badian, and the others also went up. Some of the honorables seemed to be at ease. Perhaps their Taoist core was already extraordinary, or perhaps they had listened to the sage's Taoist preaching and experienced the mental staircase before. A large group of cultivators went through all kinds of illusions on the mental staircase. They all had different expressions on their faces. Some were terrified when they faced the things that they feared the most, while some were ecstatic when they fantasized about the glory of the world. One could see all kinds of emotions in life on the mental staircase. Chu Kuangren even saw a male cultivator pouting while hugging another male cultivator next to him and nibbling on him. The only thing missing was his clothes. It was obvious that he was mesmerized by some kind of illusion. "Big brother, aren't you going to give it a try?" the little Taoist child asked. "I'll wait a little longer. Big brother, don't worry. I'll be here watching. If you can't get out of the illusion, I'll wake you up." The little Taoist child was thinking of opening the back door for Chu Kuangren again. There's no need for that. I just want to wait for that sister to finish before I go up," Chu Kuangren said as he looked at Lan Yu's back. He had to watch first to ensure that nothing bad would happen to Lan Yu. By the way, seventh forefather, a sage's Taoist preaching is rare. Why don't you guys go in and listen? Chu Kuangren said to the void. He saw that many of the Sky Pride's protectors had already made their moves. The seventh forefather and the other two appeared. They looked at the palace and hesitated for a moment before they nodded. "All right, let's go in and listen then." The three of them were not afraid that something would happen to Chu Kuangren. After all, this was the sage's Taoist grounds. No one would dare to cause trouble here. Half an hour had passed, and the honorables had gradually passed the mental staircase. Only a few of them were still fighting against the illusion. Among them, the Sky Prides were the most eye-catching. After all, these people were the future of their orthodoxies. If they did not have a strong enough Taoist core, how could they become the pillars of their orthodoxies in the future? Phew. I finally made it up. Lan Yu finished the last step and arrived at the entrance of the sage's palace. She turned to look at Chu Kuangren, who was at the bottom of the mental staircase, and nodded. "And now that she's done, it's my turn." Chu Kuangren smiled and walked up the mental staircase. His action instantly attracted the attention of all the cultivators who had finished the mental staircase. Everyone wanted to know what kind of Taoist core this peerless Sky Pride with unparalleled talent and combat strength had. When he stepped on the first step, Chu Kuangren only felt the scene in front of him change. A huge wave of scorching flames appeared and rushed towards him. "That's it?" Chu Kuangren shook his head and steadied his Taoist core. He lifted his foot and walked into the raging flames, completely unfazed by the burning pain. Then Chu Kuangren saw all kinds of illusions. There were tsunamis, storms, earthquakes, peerless beasts, and all kinds of emotions that were intertwined with each other. It was only 72 steps, but it was as if he had experienced 72 seasons of life. He had seen delicacies, met beauties, been a high and mighty emperor, and also been a lowly beggar. However, no matter what kind of illusion it was, it could not make him pause for even a moment. His Taoist core was as firm as a rock, unshakable. His footsteps were light as he passed the crowd on the mental staircase. It was as if he was walking on an ordinary flight of stairs, and he quickly arrived beside Lan Yu. Chapter 151. How can he walk so fast? The mental staircase doesn't seem to affect him at all. What the hell is going on? In front of the sage's palace, everyone was dumbfounded. The scene of Chu Kuangren passing the mental staircase so quickly shocked them. One must know that among all the people present, even the fastest supreme martial artist had spent almost an hour to pass through. However, Chu Kuangren took one step at a time without stopping at all. It only took him 20 to 30 breaths to complete the staircase as if it was an ordinary staircase. It was as if there was no such thing as an illusion. At that moment, all the cultivators who had passed through the mental staircase looked at Chu Kuangren in fear. There was even a hint of fear in their eyes. Was he still human with a Taoist core like that? After all, a Taoist core was linked to a person's experience, will, and emotions. The illusions of the mental staircase were also based on these. However, the way Chu Kuangren passed it without stopping made everyone wonder if this guy had no emotions at all. Was he still human? Could he be a rock? Buzz, buzz, buzz. At that moment, the mental staircase suddenly shook violently and cracks began to appear. In the blink of an eye, The white jade-like mental staircase was filled with cracks and began to fall apart. The power of the illusions also began to dissipate, and the cultivators who were originally immersed in the illusions were awakened. They looked around blankly at first, but when they noticed the mental staircase's transformation, they immediately rushed up. Not long after, the beautiful mental staircase turned into rubble. *CK What happened to the mental staircase? Why did it just crumble like that? What kind of shoddy construction is this? It can't be. The little Taoist child at the bottom of the mental staircase was also shocked. In a flash, he arrived at the palace gate and looked at Chu Kuangren strangely. Big brother, how did you do it? How did I do what? Chu Kuangren was confused, but he had a vague guess in his heart. The other cultivators also guessed something. An honorable asked the little Taoist child, Little brother, are you saying that the collapse of the mental staircase is related to Brother Chu? The little Taoist child nodded and said, I heard from my teacher that this mental staircase can test a cultivator's Taoist core. However, if it encounters an indestructible Taoist core, it will be affected and even collapse. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a cold breath. What did that mean? Did that mean that Chu Kuangren's Taoist core was so strong that it could destroy the mental staircase on its own? Is there an example of such a thing? A supreme martial artist asked. The little Tao child shook his head. No, but teacher said that only the Tao heart of the ancient emperors would be able to do such a thing. Only the ancient emperors could do that? These words were like a muffled thunder exploding in everyone's ears. Holy shit. Chu Kuangren's Taoist core was comparable to the emperors of old. What kind of freak was this? It can't be, it can't be, it can't be. How could such a thing be discovered? I think the mental staircase is malfunctioning. Yes, I think so too. The mental staircase has existed for so many years and has tested countless people's Tao hearts. It's normal for it to malfunction after being in disrepair for so long. That makes sense. Some of the cultivators started talking at the same time. Their words gained the approval of many others and everyone gradually accepted them. Standing shoulder to shoulder with the ancient emperors. They dared not imagine such a thing and were unwilling to believe it either. Chu Kuangren was already too insane, but to say that he could stand shoulder to shoulder with the ancient emperors was just too terrifying. Is it really in disrepair for so long? This mental staircase is a sage weapon after all. The little Tao child frowned and muttered with a twisted face. However, the cultivators who did not ascend the mental staircase could not care less. Now that the mental staircase was destroyed, they felt that this was a chance for them to listen to the sage's Taoist preaching without climbing the mental staircase. One by one, these cultivators dashed towards the palace gate. However, at that moment, an invisible force suddenly spread out from the palace, and those cultivators who tried to take advantage of the situation were all sent flying. Cultivators who have ascended the mental staircase may now enter the palace. As for the others, please leave. An old voice came from inside the palace. It was the Whitelock sage's order. Those cultivators who did not ascend the mental staircase were unwilling, but since the sage had spoken, what else could they say? They could only leave obediently. They don't have the guts to ascend the mental staircase, yet they tried to take advantage of the situation. Do these people deserve to listen to the sage's Taoist preaching? An honorable snorted. Then the crowd entered the palace. The interior of the palace was very spacious. Inside there was an old man dressed in white robes sitting on a cattail hassock. The old man's hair, beard, and even his eyebrows were white. Even though he was just sitting there, he gave off an ethereal and untouchable vibe. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and obtained some information. Whitelock Sage, Early Sage Manifestation Realm, cultivates the meritorious physique. Early Sage Manifestation Realm. Meritorious physique? Those two keywords came into Chu Kuangren's sight. There were strong and weak sages too. The Early Sage Manifestation Realm was a normal sage, the middle sage was a great sage, and above the late sage was a sage ruler. As for the meritorious physique, it was a cultivation technique that was very rare. It was a merit technique that used merit to cultivate. No wonder this Whitelock sage often preaches and collects merits. So it's to cultivate this meritorious physique. Chu Kuangren murmured. At that moment he felt a gaze fall upon him. It was the Whitelock sage. Chu Kuangren's heart was beating like a drum. Could this sage be blaming me for destroying his mental staircase? Fortunately, the Whitelock sage only glanced at him once before he shifted his gaze away. He then said to the crowd of cultivators, "The Taoist preaching is about to begin. Everyone please find a seat and take a seat." The crowd found their seats and sat on the ground. Most of the honorables who had been here before rushed to a spot 3 meters away from the Whitelock sage and sat down. That spot was the closest to the sage, and it was also the best distance to listen to the sage's Taoist preaching. Chu Kuangren did not fight for a seat. Instead, he and Lan Yu found a random spot to sit down. Once everyone found their seats, the sage began his Taoist preaching. From the most basic cultivation realm to the final experience of becoming a sage, the sage explained every realm in great detail. As the sage preached, an incredibly mysterious Taoist rhyme permeated the entire palace. In an instant, a large amount of spiritual qi gathered towards the place, and a strange phenomenon of flowers falling from the sky and golden lotuses sprouting from the ground appeared. Chu Kuangren listened to the sage's preaching from the back and gained some insight. As expected of a sage, his Taoist techniques and cultivation level are indeed profound. He looked at the others and realized that everyone was immersed in the sage's Taoist preaching. Each and every one of them had an infatuated look on their faces, including the honorables and even supreme honorables like the seventh forefather. Chu Kuangren could not help but be speechless. Isn't this a little too much? Although the sage's Taoist preaching had inspired him, he was not as engrossed as the others. Moreover, the more he listened, the less inspiration Whitelock sage gave him. In the end, he did not feel anything at all. Could it be that he was so stupid that he could not understand what the sage was saying? What a joke. If he was stupid, then there would be no geniuses in this world. Chapter 152. Chu Kuangren's mastery of Tao techniques was too high. Especially after he had gone into closed-door meditation for 3 years to gain insights into the Emperor's scripture, his understanding of Tao techniques was probably not far off from that of a sage. Chu Kuangren suddenly had an idea when he realized that. What would happen if he were to mentally spar with a sage now? He had thought of mentally sparring with a sage a long time ago. However, he never had the chance to do so. Now the chance was right in front of him. Let's wait a little longer. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath and suppressed the impulse in his heart. It was not that he was afraid, but the sage was giving a Taoist lecture now. It would be rude to suddenly spar with him. At that thought, Chu Kuangren hugged the descendant self-sword in his arms. He no longer listened to the sage's Taoist lecture and instead focused on understanding the mysteries of the sword soul. To him, that was more useful than listening to the sage's Taoist lecture. Time passed and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The sage's Taoist lecture had also ended. Everyone gradually recovered from the sage's Taoist lecture and looked like they had benefited a lot from it. Even the honorables benefited. Thank you, sage. One of the honorable supremes stood up and bowed. Thank you, sage. The others also stood up and bowed, expressing their gratitude. The Whitelock saint smiled faintly. After this lecture he had gained some merit. Although it was not very useful to the merit-treasured body, it was still meat no matter how small a mosquito was. That's the end of today's lecture. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, the Whitelock sage said. The cultivators' eyes lit up. They quickly took the opportunity to voice out their doubts and were all answered by the sage. Sage, this is the era of great battles. In your opinion, who has the highest chance of becoming an emperor? Ao Chang suddenly asked. That question piqued the interest of many people. However, the Whitelock sage did not answer directly. Instead, he said, this is a heavenly mystery that only we can fathom. How long do you think it'll take for another emperor to appear? This time it was Yuan Hong who asked. This era of great battles is an unprecedented change. The great Tao has manifested, but to become an emperor, one has to train hard. It might take 100 years or even 1,000 years, the Whitelock sage said with a frown. Even he had not advanced to martial emperor. Who knew how long it would take for someone to do so? Sage, I heard that the mental staircase in front of your palace can test a cultivator's Taoist core. Now that the mental staircase has collapsed, do you think Chu Kuangren's Taoist core is comparable to the emperors of old? Wu Chenzi glanced at Chu Kuangren and asked. The corners of the Whitelock sage's mouth twitched imperceptibly. He was aware that the mental staircase had been destroyed. He could not fathom Chu Kuangren's Taoist core either. He dared not determine if Chu Kuangren's Taoist core was comparable to the emperors of old. After all, this matter was too unbelievable. However, if he said that he didn't know, wouldn't he be embarrassing himself as a saint? Why do these little guys keep asking me things I don't know? The Whitelock sage suddenly thought of something. With a deep gaze, he pretended to be mysterious and said, I can't say. I can't say. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at each other and were slightly puzzled. Can't say? What does this mean? Everyone was extremely curious, but the sage did not say anything. Even if they were so curious that they felt like ants were crawling in their hearts, there was no way they could know. Sage, I've been stuck in the honorable realm for 2,000 years. May I ask how I can break through? At that moment, an honorable suddenly asked. Although this question was still very difficult, compared to the questions that the previous sages did not know, he still knew a little about it. The sermon lasted for 3 days and the question and answer session took 2 days. The Whitelock sage felt that it was about time, so he set his gaze on Chu Kuangren with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. This was because Chu Kuangren had been sitting on the same spot since the beginning. He neither listened to his sermon nor asked any questions. All he did was hug his sword. Chu Kuangren was like a statue, not moving an inch. The Whitelock sage started to wonder why Chu Kuangren was there. Not only the sage but the others also noticed Chu Kuangren's strange behavior. They looked at each other, not knowing what he was up to. Chu Kuangren, how dare you disregard the sage's authority? How dare you be so rude in front of a sage? An honorable suddenly questioned Chu Kuangren loudly. Buzz. At that moment, the descendant's self-sword trembled slightly, revealing half of its body. An incredibly terrifying sharp aura locked onto that honorable. That honorable's face turned pale as if he was struck by lightning. That sharp aura made him feel like his life was hanging by a thread. That sword was too terrifying. The crowd was secretly shocked. It was indeed worthy of being the 100-sword spectrum's #1 sword. It was the only known sacred sword that had merged with a sword soul. It truly lived up to its reputation. Chu Kuangren slowly regained consciousness. He placed his hand on the descendant's self-sword's hilt and sheathed it into its scabbard. He then caressed the sword's body as if he was comforting it. He softly murmured, "It's not worth getting angry over someone like him." Then he looked around before he looked at the Whitelock sage who was sitting on a futon. He smiled and asked, "Is the sermon over?" The Whitelock sage nodded. "Yes." "All right then. I have a question for you as well." The crowd looked at him curiously. "Please go ahead." The sage's expression turned serious. How difficult would it be to answer a question that even a peerless sky pride like him could not understand? The sage has been preaching for 3 days and answering questions for 2 days. Are you tired? What? The crowd looked at each other in confusion. What kind of question was that? "I'm all right," the Whitelock sage replied. He too did not know what Chu Kuangren was up to. "Hey, if that's the case, may I invite the sage to spar with me now?" Chu Kuangren chuckled. As soon as he said that, the crowd fell into an eerie silence. Everyone was doubting what they had just heard. What did they just hear? Chu Kuangren wanted to spar with a sage? How dare you? How dare you spout such nonsense, you little brat? A few terrifying auras instantly erupted. It was a few honorables who were glaring at Chu Kuangren. The Whitelock sage was like a teacher to them when he preached to them, and they respected him immensely. To them, Chu Kuangren's actions were no different from provoking the sage. How could they not be angry? Buzz! A sword chime erupted. An incredibly terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme filled the air and instantly overpowered the honorables' poise, forcing them to retreat. The initially furious honorables looked at Chu Kuangren in shock. "I'm asking the sage, not you guys." Chu Kuangren glanced at the honorables before he looked straight at the sage. "I wonder if the sage is willing to spar with me?" His tone was neither humble nor arrogant, and there was a hint of seriousness in it. Everyone believed him. Chu Kuangren really wanted to spar with a sage. At that thought, they did not know how to express their inner thoughts. They could not tell if they were shocked or disdainful. However, there was one thing they were sure of. They would never dare to request a spar with a sage like Chu Kuangren did. They did not even dare to think about it. We're here to listen to the sage's Taoist preaching, but this Chu Kuangren is here to spar with a sage. Chapter 153. Inside the sage's palace, Chu Kuangren uttered something shocking. He was here to mentally spar with a sage. A hint of surprise appeared in Whitelock sage's eyes when he heard Chu Kuangren's request. He then pondered for a while. "Young man, are you sure you want to do this? My Dao techniques have reached a bottleneck, so I hope to mentally spar with a sage to seek a breakthrough. I hope you can fulfill my request," Chu Kuangren said. "If that's the case, sure." Whitelock sage nodded and agreed to Chu Kuangren's request. Chu Kuangren smiled and walked past the crowd to the sage. He then sat on the ground with the descendant's self-sword in his arms. Everyone stared at the two without blinking. A battle monarch was going to mentally spar with a sage. To them, the scene before them was simply too unbelievable. No one wanted to miss out on such an event. "Young man, your body is surrounded by merit energy. How rare. Whitelock Sage glanced at Chu Kuangren and smiled. Heh, it's nothing compared to a sage's Taoist preaching and blessing the world. Chu Kuangren knew that he had merit energy. After all, he had saved the northern Lingdao state back then, so it would be strange if he did not have any merit energy. However, this bit of merit energy was nothing compared to Whitelock Sage's. After all, the sage had accumulated so much merit energy that Chu Kuangren could not compare to. Nevertheless, Chu Kuangren did not take it to heart. Sage, please, Chu Kuangren said. Then, Taoist rhymes emanated from his body, and the sword of the heavens hovered above his head as he began the mental sparring. Whitelock Sage did not hesitate and unleashed his Tao technique realm. In an instant, Chu Kuangren felt a boundless ocean-like Taoist rhyme rushing towards him, giving him unprecedented pressure. Is this the sage Taoist rhyme? If he had not spent 3 years studying the Longevity Emperor scripture, the sword of the heavens would have crumbled under this terrifying sage Taoist rhyme. Young man, your Tao technique realm is truly amazing. I'm afraid not many below the sages can compare to you. Whitelock Sage could not help but exclaim when he saw that Chu Kuangren had withstood his Taoist rhyme. The others heard the sage's words too, and they were speechless. No wonder Chu Kuangren wanted to mentally spar with a sage. It turned out that his Tao technique realm had already reached such a level. Ao Chang, Yuan Hong, and the others exchanged glances with each other. A strong sense of defeat rose in their hearts. They were all sky prides and young emperors, but Chu Kuangren had long surpassed them. Sage, please take this. At that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly shouted. The sword of the heavens trembled and a sword ray shot out. The terrifying sword light contained an extreme sword-based Taoist rhyme. Even the Whitelock Saint's gaze turned grave when he saw it. Good sword Tao. White-browed exclaimed in admiration. With a thought, an indomitable giant phantom appeared behind him and attacked the sword light. 2 Taoist rhymes intertwined and clashed in the air. Brilliant lights circulated, dazzling all the cultivators present. Such a Taoist rhyme was too mystical. Little friend, take a move from me too. Taoist rhymes circulated around the Whitelock Sage as the giant shadow pointed a finger at Chu Kuangren. Majestic Taoist rhymes gushed forth like a tsunami. Even an honorable Supreme's Tao technique would be instantly defeated by that finger. Chu Kuangren moved his mind, and white lotuses suddenly appeared in the air, disintegrating the Taoist rhyme layer by layer. Sage ruler technique, white lotus light of purification. Oh, what an amazing technique. Whitelock Sage was slightly surprised. Again. Chu Kuangren's eyes glimmered with excitement. Mental sparring with a sage was indeed extraordinary. He could vaguely feel that he had touched the Taoist technique barrier. Not only that, but he had also used the Eternal Emperor scripture that he had learned in the past 3 years in this mental sparring session to deepen his understanding. Not only that, but the various techniques that he had learned in the Dharma sect were also at his fingertips. Chu Kuangren used everything that he had learned in his lifetime and enjoyed himself to the fullest. The mental sparring session lasted for an entire day. All sorts of mystical Taoist rhymes lingered in the grand hall, mesmerizing every cultivator. In particular, Chu Kuangren's Taoist rhymes made every cultivator feel like they could see the shadow of their own Tao within them. This shocked everyone. They couldn't imagine how a person could master so many cultivation techniques. Rumor has it that Chu Kuangren once learned all the techniques in the Dharma sect. It seems that the rumors are true. This is too terrifying. He has so many techniques, yet he can use each and every one of them to perfection. I'm afraid that even the Dharma sect master can only do this. Just how terrifying is this person's level of enlightenment? Even the 7th forefather and the other protectors who had always been by Chu Kuangren's side were a little shocked. They knew that Chu Kuangren's Taoist technique realm was so high that even they could not compare to him, but they did not expect it to be this high. He had sparred with a sage for an entire day and night without losing. Junior Chu, it's time to end this. At that moment, Whitelock Sage suddenly spoke, and a ray of white light shot out from between his brows. That ray of white light contained an incredibly powerful Taoist rhyme. The sage's Taoist rhyme was vividly displayed within it. In an instant, the white light broke through the white lotus light of purification and hit the sword of the heavens above Chu Kuangren's head. The sword of the heavens Taoist rhyme was damaged and cracks began to appear on it. Chu Kuangren's body trembled, and the Taoist rhyme around him gradually collapsed. Just a little bit more. The descendant self-sword in Chu Kuangren's arms trembled, and a powerful surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted once again and was injected into the sword of the heavens. The Taoist rhyme that was initially collapsing was instantly stabilized, and it became even sharper. Whitelock Sage nodded. What a good sword. Chu Kuangren did not reply. At that moment, he had fallen into a mysterious state of enlightenment. The various Taoist techniques that he had learned in this life, as well as the knowledge that he had gained from 3 years of studying the Emperor's scripture, were all playing out in his mind. There were too many. He knew too many things. Chu Kuangren summarized these techniques one by one, then he integrated all of them into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. He had learned so many techniques for this one sword technique. The crowd watched as the white lotuses around Chu Kuangren dissipated, leaving behind the sword of the heavens above his head that was radiating in endless radiance. An incredibly terrifying surge of sword-based Taoist rhyme rose rapidly. At that moment, even Whitelock Sage could feel his heart palpitate. This Taoist rhyme. What's going on? Bas. At that moment, the sword of the heavens' radiance turned into a beam of light that shot into the sky. As if the Taoist Tao had sensed it, various transformations appeared above the palace. Flowers fell from the sky, golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and Taoist rhymes echoed. The Taoist rhyme from the transformations gradually spread and covered a radius of 10,000 kilometers. The entire Azure Dragon domain, no, the entire firmament star, seemed to have sensed it as they all looked towards the direction of Whitelock Mountain with bewildered expressions. This Taoist rhyme, what's going on? Is this a sage's Taoist rhyme? But that can't be right. A sage's Taoist rhyme doesn't have this kind of terrifying fluctuation. What's going on? Whitelock Mountain. Is it Whitelock Sage's doing? All the strong cultivators were shocked. Even the sages hiding behind the scenes were alarmed. One by one, they released their spiritual thoughts towards the direction of Whitelock Mountain to investigate. Chapter 154. The sages tried to peek at the Whitelock Mountain's Taoist rhyme. However, a terrifying aura erupted from the Taoist rhyme, shocking all the sages who came to peek. That Taoist rhyme contained a majestic emperor's aura. A towering white-robed figure gradually appeared before everyone's eyes. That person was holding a long sword, and a terrifying Taoist rhyme surged around his body. It was the emperor's aura that the sages felt. Who's that? I don't know. Why would an emperor appear? No, that's not an emperor. It's just an emperor's aura. Also, why do I feel that this person looks familiar? The sages communicated with each other through their spiritual thoughts. Suddenly, one of the sages said in a shocked tone, "That person looks like Chu Kuangren." Chu Kuangren, the Black Heaven sect's lead disciple Chu Kuangren. Oh, it really is that kid. The Black Heaven sect's sage also recognized Chu Kuangren, but he was also very puzzled by the scene before him. He did not know why Chu Kuangren would have an emperor's aura. No, Chu Kuangren's cultivation level is only at the Battle Monarch realm, and he doesn't have any emperor's essence on him. Where is this emperor's aura coming from? Even emperor's essence wouldn't have such a strong emperor's aura, let alone such a phenomenon. If I'm not mistaken, he's creating his own emperor's technique. One of the sages could not hide the shock in his tone. At that, everyone regained their senses. Upon closer inspection, they realized that Chu Kuangren was indeed creating his own emperor's technique. This discovery left all the sages dumbfounded. They were so shocked that even their spiritual thoughts began to fluctuate violently. How is this possible? A Battle Monarch realm cultivator creating his own emperor's technique? This is a fantasy. I've never heard of such a thing before. When the sages regained their senses, they expressed their doubts. This kind of thing was too unimaginable. The Black Heaven sect's sage was also shocked, but he then laughed and said, "This kid really surprises us time and time again. 3 years ago he created his own sage ruler technique, and 3 years later he created his own emperor's technique. Ah, the heavens have blessed the Black Heaven sect." The Black Heaven sect's sage's voice echoed in everyone's spiritual thoughts. The sages of the various orthodoxies were extremely jealous. Why was such a peerless sky pride born in the Black Heaven sect? Above the saint's palace, the white-robed figure held a long sword in his hand and suddenly slashed. A terrifying and boundless Taoist rhyme swept out along with this sword like a gale. This sword was not supported by any spiritual power. However, just the Taoist rhyme alone was enough to make all the living beings in the Whitelock Mountain, including the Supremacies, prostrate themselves on the ground and shiver in fear. The sages' spiritual thoughts were also cut into pieces by this sword. They cried out in alarm and quickly retreated like the tide. Inside the sages' palace, Chu Kuangren had integrated everything he had learned into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. and he had finally raised this sage ruler technique to the level of an emperor technique. He suddenly opened his eyes, and the heavenly law sword above his head released a boundless brilliance. He said to the Whitelock Saint, "Please take another sword strike from me." Buzz. The heavenly sword trembled slightly, and a purple sword light suddenly slashed out. A terrifying Taoist rhyme that seemed like it could tear the heavens and split the earth spread out, causing the pupils of everyone present, including the Supremes, to shrink. Their faces were filled with fear. The Whitelock Saint's expression turned grim as he fully unleashed his Tao technique realm. With a point of his finger, the sage Taoist rhyme collided with the sword light. The two Taoist rhymes exploded and enveloped the entire hall. Everyone's Tao technique realm was suppressed by this Taoist rhyme, making it difficult for them to use it. Not long after, the two Taoist rhymes slowly dissipated. Chu Kuangren and the Whitelock Saint remained seated. The Whitelock Saint's eyes were filled with shock. He had blocked that sword strike just now. However, that was under the circumstance that Chu Kuangren had just self-created an emperor technique and was not familiar with it yet. Otherwise, the Whitelock Saint might have lost. "I can't believe that such a stunning sky pride like you would appear in this era," the Whitelock Saint exclaimed. Self-created emperor technique. That was something that only an emperor could do. However, Chu Kuangren had done it when he was only in the battle monarch realm. His realm was worlds apart from an emperor. Even a sage would find such a thing unimaginable. "I've learned a lot from this sparring session. Thank you, sage, for your guidance." Chu Kuangren smiled in satisfaction. He had finally used this opportunity to elevate his heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique to an emperor technique, greatly increasing his combat strength. Who won and who lost? I don't know. The cultivators at the scene were confused. This sparring session was too mysterious. It was not something that people of their level could comprehend, so naturally they did not know what was going on. However, some of the honorables could tell what was going on. The sage did not lose. One of the honorables took a deep breath and said. When the others heard this, they revealed a look of "as expected." "I knew it. How could a sage lose?" "Ha, Chu Kuangren lost. TSK, he may be a sky pride, but he's still no match for a sage." "No." At that moment, the honorable shook his head. The sage did not lose, but he did not win either. This sparring session was a draw. What? The crowd was dumbfounded. This Chu Kuangren's Tao technique level is comparable to a sage's. Not only that, Chu Kuangren even created an emperor technique at the end, the honorable said with a trembling voice. Obviously this was a huge blow to him. As soon as he finished speaking, all the cultivators were dumbfounded. Self-created emperor technique? How could something like that happen to a battle monarch cultivator? They looked at the sage wanting to prove it. However, the sage did not refute the honorable's words. His attitude undoubtedly confirmed what the honorable had said. At that moment, the cultivators in the palace were dumbfounded. As expected, the emperor's chi within my body trembled because of Chu Kuangren's self-created emperor technique. The Sky Pride Ao Chang murmured. At that moment he had completely given up on competing with Chu Kuangren. How could he compete with a cheat who could self-create an emperor technique? 3 years ago he suppressed everyone to the point where they could not even lift their heads. After 3 years of closed-door meditation, the era of great battles finally showed itself. Now that he's out, the world has become his stage again. How sad. Yuan Hong looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. The other sky prides also smiled bitterly, their faces filled with melancholy. They realized that as long as Chu Kuangren was around, the world would always look at him. Chu Kuangren's brilliance was too dazzling. Like a blazing sun in the sky, who would pay attention to anyone else? Living in the same era with someone like him, especially in this so-called era of great battles, it's really sad. Yeah, we can't compete with him at all. Compete? What do we have to compete with him? He's already a battle monarch cultivator who can self-create an emperor technique. Who else can the throne belong to besides him? After the sparring session ended, the crowd left one by one. Chu Kuangren had also left. However, news of him sparring with a sage and self-creating an emperor technique quickly spread everywhere, causing an uproar in the entire firmament star. Chapter 155. The news of Chu Kuangren sparring with a sage and creating his own emperor technique spread far and wide. In an instant, the entire firmament star was in an uproar. He was in the limelight, overshadowing all the other prodigies. Some people even believed that if someone was destined to become an emperor in this era, Chu Kuangren would definitely be the best candidate. After all, a self-created emperor technique was too shocking. Besides emperors, very few people could do that. As a battle monarch, Chu Kuangren had achieved what only an emperor could do. To the crowd, it was almost certain that he would become an emperor in the future. Amidst the vast sea of clouds, Chu Kuangren sat on the ferry boat. Congratulations, host. You have obtained a bottle of Heaven Spirit Marrow, a gold-grade item. Chu Kuangren had just finished his lucky draw. The prize was Heaven Spirit Marrow, which had helped him a lot in the past. It had even helped him form his 3 supreme foundations. But it was useless now. He threw it into his universe ring and let the divine phoenix egg absorb it. Buzz buzz. At this moment, the communication compass in his yin and yang ring suddenly vibrated. Chu Kuangren took it out and saw that Honorable Xian Qi had sent him a message. Kuangren, quickly make a trip to the Barren Feather Dao province. As it turned out, there was a dynasty in the Barren Feather Dao state called China. China was a supreme orthodoxy. At the same time, it was also an affiliated force of the Black Heaven sect. Every year they would offer tributes to the Black Heaven sect. However, recently China had discovered traces of demonic cultivators, and there were even supremacies among them. As a precaution, China reported the matter to the Black Heaven sect and requested for reinforcements. Honorable Xian Qi, on the other hand, handed this matter over to Chu Kuangren. After all, he had killed 100,000 demonic cultivators back then, which was still a deterrent to the demonic cultivators. It's the demonic cultivators causing trouble again. I'm so bored these days. Chu Kuangren shook his head before he turned around and headed towards the Qian nation. Since he had nothing better to do anyway, he might as well find something to do. In the capital city of China, when Chu Kuangren arrived at the Qian nation, he strolled around the streets. However, his appearance was so outstanding that he attracted the attention of many passers-by. That young master is so handsome. Such celestial beauty is rarely seen in the world. The passers-by around them were discussing spiritedly. There were even some coachmen who were too engrossed in the scene and accidentally crashed into someone. A handsome face is a source of calamity. Chu Kuangren touched his face and lamented. After all, few cultivators could resist his charm, let alone these ordinary mortals. He saw a vendor selling masks on the street, so he walked up and picked one up. Finally, he chose a white fox mask and put it on. He smiled at Lan Yu and asked, "Does it look good?" "Yes." Lan Yu nodded. "Lan Yu, do you want to choose one as well?" "All right." Lan Yu nodded and picked up a mask. It was a ferocious-looking wolf mask. After the two of them bought the masks, they wore them on the streets. Although it was still quite eye-catching, it was not as exaggerated as before. Chu Kuangren planned to go straight to the palace to meet the king of Qian nation. Hence, he brought Lan Yu along and headed towards the palace gate. However, the two of them were stopped by the palace guards. The royal palace is an important place, no trespassing. The royal guards stared at the masked man warily. After years of guarding the palace, he had developed an intuition that allowed him to judge who was the most dangerous. This intuition had helped him many times, and now, his intuition was warning him like crazy, causing him to be on high alert. These two people were extremely dangerous. "Take off your masks," the royal guard shouted. Chu Kuangren slowly took off his mask, revealing a perfect face. He smiled and said, "I am Chu Kuangren, here to visit the king." At first, the crowd was stunned by Chu Kuangren's appearance, but when they heard the name Chu Kuangren, their pupils shrank and their faces were filled with shock. If one were to ask who was the most famous person in Firmament Star, it would undoubtedly be Chu Kuangren. These royal guards guarded the palace all day, so they had seen a lot of people coming and going. Naturally, they had heard a lot. Chu Kuangren was one of the most popular names in recent times, so it was impossible for them not to know him. Chu Kuangren, he's the rumored Black Heaven sect lead disciple who created his own emperor technique. Gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing him in person. He looks better than the rumors say. What's he doing in the palace? The royal guard immediately said after hearing Chu Kuangren's name, "Please wait for a moment. I'll report to the king immediately." "Thank you." Chu Kuangren smiled. Not long after, the group of guards saw the dignified King Qian rushing out of the palace to welcome Chu Kuangren personally. "Oh my brother Chu, it's my fault for making you wait here for so long. Please come in, you're too kind, King Qian." Chu Kuangren and King Qian followed King Qian into the palace. Along the way, King Qian secretly observed Chu Kuangren. The more he looked, the more he felt that the rumors were true. The Black Heaven sect lead disciple was indeed a celestial being. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was also observing King Qian. He looked to be in his 50s, had a dignified appearance, and had an honorable cultivation base. When Chu Kuangren and King Qian arrived, King Qian arranged for a banquet that night. The Qian nation's royal family and Tier 1 officials all attended. At the banquet, many people were sizing Chu Kuangren up. It was especially so for the princesses and princes. Chu Kuangren had long gotten used to these gazes, so he did not pay much attention to them. I've asked for help from the Black Heaven sect, but I didn't expect them to send you here. It's the Qian nation's honor, King Qian said with a smile. Chu Kuangren smiled. You're too kind, King Qian. However, my honorable teacher has sent me here, but I'm not too familiar with the situation. I wonder if you can tell me in detail which demonic cultivators are causing trouble in the Qian nation. At that, King Qian's expression turned serious. It's mainly people from the Euphoria sect and the Ashura sect. Besides them, there's also a group of unknown demonic cultivators. These people have caused a lot of damage in the Qian nation, and there are even honorable realm demonic cultivators among them. Do you know what they're after? I'm not sure, but they seem to be looking for something. Looking for something? Is it going to be like what happened in northern Lingdao? Chu Kuangren frowned. The demonic onslaught in northern Lingdao last time was caused by the demonic spear of apocalypse. Was it because of something else this time as well? However, compared to northern Lingdao, the Qian nation was an honorable orthodoxy. With King Qian around, they could suppress the demonic cultivators for a while. It would not be like the last time where the entire state was turned into an Ashura hell. I heard that Brother Chu had killed 100,000 demonic cultivators in northern Lingdao 3 years ago. I'm relieved that Brother Chu is here. Come, Brother Chu, let me propose a toast to you. King Qian raised his cup. I'll do my best, Chu Kuangren said. The next day, the second prince of the Qian nation came to look for Chu Kuangren. He said that he wanted to bring him around the capital city since he was a newcomer. Brother Chu, the demonic cultivators can't be rushed. My father has already sent someone to investigate, and he'll inform you when there's a result. For now, let me bring you around so that I can be a good host. The second prince said. Chapter 156. In China there was a brothel called the Heavenly Fragrance Brothel. At this moment, in a boudoir within the Heavenly Fragrant Pavilion, a woman in gorgeous red clothes was dressing herself in front of a mirror, and every move she made revealed a sense of charm. This person was the top beauty of the Heavenly Fragrant Pavilion, and people called her Miss Hong. There was a maidservant beside Miss Hong who was tidying her hair. Any news recently? Lady, the sect leader and the others are estimated to arrive at the capital today. Besides that, the people from the Shura sect and an unknown devil cultivator faction are also eyeing that place. At that time, I'm afraid that a big battle will be unavoidable. I never planned on achieving my goal so easily. That place is definitely the demon-quenching pool recorded in the ancient records. Legend has it that the demon-quenching pool contains a saint ruler's demon heart. This kind of fortune is obviously coveted by many. Also, there's another piece of news. At this point, the maid paused for a moment. What's there to hesitate about? Speak. Chu Kuangren has arrived at the Qian nation. As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell into silence. Miss Hong's hand that was drawing her eyebrows also paused for a moment, and the eyebrow pencil fell to the ground. Say that again? Oh. Chu Kuangren. D***, why did this killing god come to China? Miss Hong was no longer calm, and a hint of fear appeared in her eyes. Although he had never met Chu Kuangren before, his name was enough to strike fear into the hearts of countless demonic cultivators. The resentment of the 100,000 devil cultivators of Devil Weeping Mountain had yet to dissipate. China is a subsidiary force of the Black Heaven sect. It is normal for them to send people here, the maid said helplessly. They have so many people. Why did they have to send that killing god? This is going to be troublesome. Miss Hong gritted her teeth, no longer in the mood to continue putting on makeup. Seeing this, the servant girl sighed helplessly. Why did they send Chu Kuangren? What they were witnessing now was the best proof of that. After all, Chu Kuangren's deterrence towards demonic cultivators was much greater than that of an honorable. Not only the Red Lady, but the demonic cultivators who were scattered all over the Qian nation had also received news of Chu Kuangren's arrival in the Qian nation. For a moment, most of the devil cultivators were scared half to death, and all of them shrunk back, not daring to make the slightest sound. The scouts that King Qian had sent out to investigate the whereabouts of the devil cultivators had also noticed this, and all of them were extremely puzzled. Why did the fiendish cultivators who stirred up trouble every other day seem to have all disappeared overnight, not even daring to let out a fart? How were they supposed to investigate this? Prince, is this the place you want to bring me to? Chu Kuangren looked at the heavenly fragrance in front of him and the graceful women on the upper floors. He could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Lan Yu glanced at the second prince. Her gaze was so cold that the second prince could not help but shiver and have goosebumps all over his body. He bit the bullet and said, "Don't misunderstand, fellow Taoist Chu. Although this heavenly fragrance restaurant is a place of pleasure, there are also many talented scholars and beautiful ladies here. The top girl here, Miss Hong, is even a famous zither master in China." "Is that so?" Chu Kuangren was a little doubtful. "Absolutely." The second prince led Chu Kuangren and his companion into the heavenly fragrance inn. As soon as they entered the inn, they immediately attracted the attention of many people present. It was especially so for the ladies, who were staring at Chu Kuangren with sparkling eyes. "What a handsome young man. I've been at the heavenly fragrance inn for so long, but this is the first time I've met a man like him. If I could have sex with him just once, it would be worth it even if I died." Some of the ladies could not hold back any longer. They went up to Chu Kuangren and surrounded him, reaching out their hands to tease him. Lan Yu took a step forward and stood in front of the ladies with a cold gaze. The ladies were intimidated by her aura, and for a moment, none of them dared to go up to her. "Shoo shoo shoo, you commoners should go and find someone else. Quick, get the red lady here and play a few songs for my friend here." The second prince waved his hand and dismissed the crowd. At that moment, a middle-aged lady who still retained her charm walked up to the second prince and smiled. "What brings you here, second prince? And this friend of yours, oh my, oh my." The middle-aged lady stared at Chu Kuangren and stammered. She then went up to him and carefully sized him up. Is he an immortal? "This friend of mine really is an immortal." "Quick, get the red lady here," the second prince said impatiently. "All right, please wait in the private room for a while." "It's this second prince again. He's already come to me twice this month. Why is he here again?" The red lady said discontentedly. "I can't help it. Who asked him to give so many soul stones? My dear mistress, you just have to put up with it. Besides, the second prince has brought someone with him this time. That person looks really extraordinary. You said the same thing the last time. Oh my, compared to this one, that person looks like a pile of sh*t. If I were a few decades younger, I'd be willing to throw myself at this person too," the middle-aged lady said with a love-struck expression. "Is it really that exaggerated?" The red lady muttered as she pushed open the door of the private room. When she saw who was inside, her expression suddenly froze. She then quietly closed the door and turned around to leave. "Hey, my dear mistress, what's wrong with you?" "Aunt Hua, please tell the second prince that I'm not feeling well today, so it's not convenient for me to serve them," the red lady said. "What do you mean not feeling well? Weren't you fine just now? Also, why did your face suddenly turn so pale?" Aunt Hua asked curiously. The red lady wanted to cry but no tears came out. She was just scared out of her wits. Not only did he look extraordinary, but he was also brought here by the second prince. She should have guessed long ago that this person was Chu Kuangren. This god of death actually came to look for her. By the heavens, if her identity was exposed, she would not be able to survive even if she had 10 lives. "Red lady, since you're already here, why don't you come in? Don't let my friend wait too long." The second prince walked out and said unhappily, "Your Highness, I'm not feeling well. Can I?" "No." Before the red lady could finish, the second prince interrupted her and said, "This friend of mine is of high status. You must serve him well today. Otherwise, you and the heavenly fragrance and will not have a good time." "All right." The red lady nodded. In her heart, she had long cursed the second prince. All men were bad. Usually he would call her precious, but now he was pushing her to someone else in the blink of an eye. Upon entering the room, the red lady bowed to Chu Kuangren respectfully. She then took out a guqin and began to play it for them. The melodious tune reverberated throughout the room, relaxing everyone. It was undeniable that the red lady's guqin skills were quite extraordinary. The red lady slowly relaxed. She felt that she was too nervous. Chu Kuangren had never seen her before, so how could he know her true identity? All she needed to do was play the guqin well. She would occasionally raise her head to observe Chu Kuangren. She realized that this god of death, who struck fear into the hearts of the demonic orthodoxies, was indeed a godly person. The red lady had seen all kinds of people, but be it in terms of appearance or temperament, none of them could compare to Chu Kuangren in front of her. Suddenly, the red lady saw a playful smile on Chu Kuangren's face. For some reason, it made her feel a sense of fear. Chapter 157. With a clang, the guqin string broke and the music stopped. The Red Lady suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and hurriedly walked towards Chu Kuangren and the others. She bowed and said, "I'm not feeling well today, so I apologize for disturbing your mood. I'll call for another sister to replace me." The second prince's expression was a little ugly, but he could not lose his temper in front of Chu Kuangren. Go on." "Yes." "Wait a minute." Chu Kuangren suddenly called out to the Red Lady and said, "There's no need to replace me. Change to another guqin and continue playing." "But just continue. It's a blessing that Brother Chu has taken a liking to you. Don't be so ungrateful," the second prince said coldly. The Red Lady pondered for a while. "All right then." She changed to another guqin and continued playing. The second prince smiled and said to Chu Kuangren, "Brother Chu, did you ask her to stay because you've taken a liking to her?" The Red Lady was also a stunning beauty. Although she was not as pretty as Lan Yu to the second prince, it was understandable that Chu Kuangren had taken a liking to her. After all, he was still young and full of vigor. Not to mention a man as outstanding as Chu Kuangren. "Hey, Your Highness, do you know where the Euphoria sect usually hides among the 3 demonic orthodoxies in the Azure Dragon domain?" The second prince was a little surprised by Chu Kuangren's question. Why did he suddenly bring up the Euphoria sect? "Please enlighten me, Brother Chu." "The Utopia faction is good at making love, and their women are good at making love in bed. Therefore they usually hide in some brothels. On the one hand, they can cultivate in these brothels. On the other hand, influential people like Your Highness often visit these brothels, so it's convenient for them to gather information," Chu Kuangren explained. The Red Lady, who was playing the guqin, completely lost her tune when she heard Chu Kuangren mention the Euphoria sect. "He saw through my identity." Miss Hong was extremely terrified. Then she no longer hesitated. Her figure flashed and turned into a red shadow, wanting to escape out of the door. However, before she could take a few steps, a domain energy completely locked onto her. In the blink of an eye, she was pinned to the ground. No matter how much she channeled the spiritual power in her body, she could not move an inch. It was almost impossible for her to escape from Chu Kuangren. "Miss Hong, you're a devil cultivator from the Utopia faction." How could the second prince not know what was going on? He glared at Miss Hong, but at the same time, he was a little afraid in his heart. This Miss Hong was actually a demonic cultivator. Wouldn't it be easy for her to harm him in the past? "How did you know my identity?" The Red Lady stared at Chu Kuangren in confusion. "No one can hide their identity from me." Chu Kuangren's eyes flickered with mysterious Taoist runes as he said indifferently. In front of this pair of eyes, Miss Hong felt as if she had been seen through from inside out. There were no secrets to speak of. "What do you want? Tell me, what are the demonic cultivators up to in China? If I don't tell you, what can you do to me?" Miss Hong said stubbornly. "The Euphoria sect is good at sex. I wonder if you'll still be happy if I find a few dozen beggars to take turns to serve you?" Chu Kuangren chuckled with a playful look on his face. The second prince could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Damn, so ruthless. Chu Kuangren, as the lead disciple of the Black Heaven sect, how can you be so despicable? The Red Lady's face instantly turned pale. She had goosebumps all over her body at the thought of what Chu Kuangren had described. If that really happened, she would rather die. "Answer my question, or else I have even more despicable tricks up my sleeves. Don't think that you'll be fine just because you're dead. If you die, I'll strip you naked and hang your corpse on the city wall for everyone to see," Chu Kuangren said coldly. *CKme. Who's the demonic cultivator here, me or you? The Red Lady was going crazy. She looked at Chu Kuangren's fairy-like face and felt that the person in front of her was definitely a demon, the most vicious kind. The second prince gulped as well. He swore to himself that no matter what happened in the future, he would never make Chu Kuangren his enemy. The demonic cultivators came to the Qian nation for the demonic heart in the demonic refinement lake. The Red Lady gritted her teeth and revealed the purpose of the demonic cultivators. She was afraid that she would betray her sect. Most demonic cultivators lived for themselves, so Chu Kuangren was not surprised by the Red Lady's actions. In fact, it was expected. "Tell me more clearly." The demonic refinement lake is a secret realm recorded in demonic scriptures. It's where the sage ruler of demonic orthodoxy, the Heartless Old Man, resided tens of thousands of years ago. Later on, the Heartless Old Man died in a great battle. According to the records, the Heartless Old Man cultivated a strange technique that could separate a person from their heart, and his heart was placed in the demonic refinement lake. According to the ancient legends, as long as the demonic heart is not destroyed, the heartless old man will not die. However, resurrection is too unbelievable. Nevertheless, that demonic heart is an opportunity of fortune, so it attracted many demonic cultivators. The demonic refinement lake will open in 3 days. The location is the capital city. The second prince's expression changed when he heard the last part. That secret realm is in the capital city? You mean, in 3 days all demonic cultivators will come to the capital city to fight for that so-called demonic heart? That's right. The Red Lady nodded. To be more precise, where is the secret realm located in the capital city? In a forest in the southeast of the capital city. However, that place has been sealed off by us demonic cultivators so no one else can enter. This is all I know, the Red Lady said. I see. Chu Kuangren nodded. Can you let me go now? Whether I let you go or not, we'll talk about it after all the other demonic cultivators have been captured. You're breaking your promise. The Red Lady said angrily. Oh, when did I say that I'll let you go as long as you tell me the truth? You think too highly of yourself, Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Then what else do you want now? Continue to be the main attraction of the Heavenly Fragrance Inn and don't do anything else. Your Highness, the palace should have some kind of control method, right? Chu Kuangren turned around and asked the second prince. Yes, there is a secret medicine in the palace. Once consumed, without an antidote, the person will die within 7 days. Let her consume it. All right. The second prince obeyed Chu Kuangren's order. It was not that Chu Kuangren was soft-hearted. It was just that the Red Lady had connections with the people from the Euphoria sect. If he killed her now, it would definitely alert the enemy. Hence, the only thing he could do now was to control her and deal with her after dealing with all the demonic cultivators. It's all thanks to Brother Chu's sharp eyes that you managed to see through the Red Lady's identity as a demonic cultivator. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have been fooled. The second prince said emotionally. It's all thanks to you, second prince. Let's go back and let King Qian make the necessary preparations. Not bad. 3 more days should be enough. When he returned, he told King Qian everything. King Qian immediately sent people to check out the forest that the Red Lady mentioned. When he found that there were indeed many demonic cultivators hiding there, he immediately deployed people to guard that area. Chapter 158. Congratulations. You have drawn a Starlight Grade item, Soul Reaper. On this day, Chu Kuangren had just finished his lucky draw. The prize he received made his eyes light up, and with a thought, a pitch-black chain that was filled with a treacherous aura suddenly appeared in his hand. There was a hook at the end of the chain that was emitting wisps of black gas. It was cold to the touch, as if one was holding an ice cube. Is this the Soul Reaper chain? Chu Kuangren muttered. The Soul Retriever was a sage ruler weapon that possessed the ability to reap away one's soul. It was extremely terrifying, and with Chu Kuangren's current cultivation realm, even an honorable supreme would not be able to escape the fate of having their souls hooked away. The soul was a very mysterious thing. It was said that even sages did not have a high understanding of the soul, let alone other cultivators. In this world, there were very few methods that could deal with the soul. Chu Kuangren was certain that there were only a handful of items like the Soul Retriever in this world. Such an item was just too rare. With this item, I'm almost unafraid of anyone below the level of a sage. Chu Kuangren kept the Soul Retriever into his spiritual mound and refined it. The Soul Retriever contained a soul-type Taoist rhyme, so Chu Kuangren might even be able to learn some soul techniques from it. Of course, this was very difficult. However, his perception was amazing, so he might be able to do it. Saint. At this moment, a person walked out of the void. It was Supreme Qinglan. Oh, what's wrong? Chu Kuangren asked. Due to the matter with the devil cultivators, he had sent Supreme Venerable Qinglan and Old Lady Meng to assist King Qian, leaving only the 7th ancestor by his side. Now that Supreme Qinglan had appeared, something must have happened. We caught someone outside the forest. He seems to have his eyes on the devil tempering pool mystic realm, but he is a friend of the saint. Oh, my friend? It's the young master of the White Jade Hotel, Li Xingqian. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Why was Li Xingqian here in the Qian nation? Take me there. In the Qian Imperial Palace, a group of guards was watching over a young man. There were supremacies among the guards, but they did not dare to be careless. If not for Old Lady Meng and Supremacy Qinglan stepping in to capture this young cultivator, they might not have been able to do anything to him. Teacher, why are there so many people? Has your secret realm been exposed? Li Xingqian communicated with the Saint King remnant spirit in his body. The Saint Ruler partial spirit was also rather worried. Looks like my secret realm has indeed been discovered. No, Xingqian, the items in the secret realm are extremely important. They're of great use to you. You can't let others take them. Teacher, don't worry. I will think of a way. Li Xingqian nodded. He was the young master of White Jade Tower, and White Jade Tower's strength was not any weaker than Qian. Even King Qian would not dare to do anything to him. Not long after, a young man in white walked over. Li Xingqian was surprised to see him. Brother Chu. When the sage ruler remnant spirit within his body sensed Chu Kuangren's presence, it immediately retracted its aura and tried its best to hide itself. Brother Li, it really is you. Chu Kuangren was surprised. Why are you here? Li Xingqian rolled his eyes and said, I came here to gain experience, but I don't know why, but these people suddenly rushed out and captured me. Brother Chu, why are you here? Chu Kuangren briefly explained the situation regarding the demonic cultivators. I see. Li Xingqian was deep in thought. It seemed that these demonic cultivators had their eyes on his teacher's sage ruler heart. This item was left behind by his teacher for him to cultivate, so he could not let these demonic cultivators get their hands on it. After some thought, Li Xingqian said, Brother Chu, since there are demonic cultivators causing trouble here, why don't you let me lend you a hand? Then I will thank you on behalf of King Qian, Brother Li. Chu Kuangren laughed. He did not mind Li Xingqian staying behind to help, but during their conversation he vaguely felt that Li Xingqian was hiding something. However, who did not have something on their mind? Chu Kuangren did not plan to get to the bottom of it, so he ordered someone to bring Li Xingqian to rest. It was night and the moon hung high in the sky. In a forest in the southeast direction of the capital city, a group of figures arrived and gathered together. It was the Azure Dragon Domain's demonic cultivators. Apart from the corpse refining sect who did not know about the situation, more than half of the Euphoria sect and Ashura sect's experts were here, including their sect leaders. With these people here, the atmosphere became a little tense. Ashura sect's sect leader, how have you been? The Euphoria sect's sect leader was a lady with a voluptuous figure. She greeted the Ashura sect's sect leader. The Ashura sect's sect leader was a bald man with a ferocious aura. His eyes swept across the Euphoria sect's sect leader's body. It's been so many years, but you're still as slutty as ever. The Euphoria sect's sect leader frowned. The demonic vanquish pool hasn't opened yet. If you don't watch your mouth, I don't mind fighting you now. Heck, come at me then. I'll let you have a taste of my power. The bald man chuckled and said with a double meaning. Sect leader, please think of the bigger picture. Seeing that the two sect leaders were at each other's throats, the elders of the two sects tried to mediate. If we fight now, it won't be good if we attract the attention of others. That's right, this is the Qian Kingdom's capital city after all. Besides, Chu Kuangren is here too. Initially, the two sect leaders did not care about King Qian, but when they heard Chu Kuangren's name, their expressions turned serious. The rest of the demonic cultivators could not help but shiver. Chu Kuangren's name had long shaken the world. Especially in the demonic orthodoxies, he was the god of death that everyone feared. The battle at the Weeping Demon Mountain was still unforgettable for many demonic cultivators. Moreover, that was 3 years ago. Without a doubt, the current Chu Kuangren was much more terrifying than he was 3 years ago. Why is this Chu Kuangren here too? Wasn't it enough that he took the demonic spear in northern Lingdao last time? Now he wants to take the demonic heart too? He's King not giving us a chance at all. The Ashura sect's sect leader snorted, feeling a little frustrated. Chu Kuangren alone is troublesome enough, not to mention that he has an honorable supreme protector behind him. Therefore, to obtain the demonic heart, it's best that we don't cause any trouble before we enter the secret realm. The Euphoria sect's sect leader said. Once I obtain the demonic heart and become a sage, the first thing I'll do is to kill this Chu Kuangren. The Ashura sect's sect leader said ruthlessly, even though he knew that it was impossible. However, that did not stop him from enjoying his mouth. Unfortunately, you won't get the chance. A voice was heard. What followed was a majestic palm energy that descended from the sky. The palm energy landed on the Ashura sect's sect leader's body and smashed him into the ground. With a loud rumble, the terrifying impact caused the ground to cave in, forming a large crater. Who's that? Such a palm energy could it be? Everyone looked towards the source of the palm energy. All they saw was a peerless figure in white walking across the sky. The moonlight shone on him, making him look extremely holy. It made him look like a celestial being that had descended from the moon, which was mesmerizing. However, the crowd of demonic cultivators was horrified when they saw this person. It's him. Chu Kuangren. D***, why is he here? Chapter 159. Chu Kuangren's appearance sent chills down the demonic cultivators' spines. Everyone was on high alert, and their eyes were filled with fear. It's already the middle of the night, yet you're still causing trouble. You demonic cultivators sure have nothing better to do, Chu Kuangren said. Chu Kuangren, what are you doing here? The Euphoria Sect Master asked. Boom. The Ashura Sect Master, who had been slammed into the ground, rushed out. His face was covered in dust, but his eyes were cold. What else could I be here for? Of course, I'm here to slay demons and be a hero. Hey, don't misunderstand. I'm not here to be a hero. I'm only here to slap you guys to death. Chu Kuangren smiled. Then he raised his hand and gathered a large amount of earth chi. The human mountain stamp was cast once again, and a terrifying force came crashing down like a godly mountain. Chu Kuangren, I've always wanted to fight you. The Ashura Sect Master said loudly as a powerful aura erupted from his body. Rays of light intertwined on his body and formed a black armor. He threw out a punch and boundless ferocious chi surged. The Euphoria Sect Master did not hold back either. She formed a seal with both of her hands and suddenly, there was a burst of fragrance. Then the silhouettes of enchanting women appeared and danced around Chu Kuangren, smiling like flowers. The fist and palm energy collided, and the void exploded. Chu Kuangren was in a gentle illusion, and the enchanting women were sending flirtatious glances at him. There was a strange surge of energy that impacted his Taoist core. It was the Euphoria Sect's illusion technique, the land of gentleness. The land of gentleness is the grave of a hero. No matter how high your cultivation level is, you're still just a kid. How can you withstand it? The Euphoria Sect Master chuckled with a hint of pride. The group of demonic cultivators breathed a sigh of relief. As expected of the Euphoria Sect Master. How powerful. This illusion technique is unparalleled in demonic orthodoxies. Dai Chu Kuangren. A dagger appeared in the Euphoria Sect Master's hand. She channeled her spiritual power into it, and under her control, the dagger shot across the sky like a meteor towards Chu Kuangren. The energy contained in the dagger was so terrifying that even an honorable supreme would be instantly injured if he was hit. However, just as the dagger was about to hit Chu Kuangren, his figure suddenly turned into a stream of light and disappeared. What happened? Watch out, sect leader of the Utopia faction. Sect leader of the Ashura faction shouted. The master of the Utopia faction felt a chill run down his spine, and his scalp went numb. Unbeknownst to her, Chu Kuangren had already appeared behind her. With a terrifying surge of earth chi brewing in his palm, he unleashed a palm attack. The Utopia sect's sect leader also struck out with his palm. As the two Taoist rhymes intertwined with each other, a cracking sound was heard. Then, a mist of blood burst out from the arm of the Utopia faction's faction leader. The bones in his arm were broken and his flesh was exposed. His entire body flew out uncontrollably like a kite with a broken string. Compared to the mental staircase, this illusion of yours is simply crude. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He had the rock-solid Taoist heart. Even the sage's mental staircase couldn't affect him, let alone the Utopia faction sect leader's little illusion technique. Damn it. Why didn't the Utopia faction sect leader's illusion technique work on him? The Ashura sect master's expression was extremely gloomy. A saber appeared in his hand, and with a ferocious slash, a violent pitch-black saber ray almost covered the moonlight as it headed towards Chu Kuangren. Even a supreme martial artist would find it hard to block this attack. The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist trembled slightly, revealing half of its blade. Then an incredibly sharp sword ray tore through the night sky. The terrifying saber ray was easily dispelled by that one sword ray. Everyone's faces turned pale when they saw that. F***ck me, what kind of sword is that? He only revealed half of his sword and it already has such power. D***m, how can Chu Kuangren's sword Dao be this powerful? What does he mean? Why did he only reveal half of his sword ray? Is he trying to say that the two great demonic orthodoxy sect masters aren't worth his time? Why don't we leave? Some of the demonic cultivators could not suppress the fear in their hearts and said. Chu Kuangren's display of strength was so powerful that it made the demonic cultivators feel uneasy. Some of them even thought of turning around and running away. However, before the demonic cultivators could make a move, The sound of the ground shaking came from not far away. Then they saw the palace guards in armor surrounding the area. Oh no, we're surrounded. How did they know we're here? Who was it? Who betrayed us? The demonic cultivators fell into a state of panic. One of the demonic cultivators gritted his teeth and said, "Since it's come to this, why don't we kill our way out and fight them to the death? Alright, let's kill them." The fiendish cultivators were furious and fought with the palace guards. The palace guards had Li Xingqian, King Qian, and even Honorable Qing Lan and Old Lady Meng on their side. These demonic cultivators were no match for them at all. In just one exchange, many demonic cultivators were killed by the two honorables. "It's all over for you guys," Chu Kuangren said. "Chu Kuangren, it's you again. It's you again. 3 years ago in the northern Lingdao state and today in the Qian nation. Why are you so determined to go against us?" The Ashura sect master said fiercely. Chu Kuangren curled his lips. "Don't be ridiculous. I can't be bothered to go against you guys. It's you guys who always come into my line of fire, so I have no choice but to kill you guys. Alright, enough with the nonsense. I'll send you guys on your way." These two sect masters were not even honorable supremes. They were just slightly stronger honorables, so they were not a threat to Chu Kuangren at all. He then activated his Taoist physique transformation and battle monarch domain. His terrifying aura instantly locked onto the two sect masters like a tsunami. Just as he was about to make his move, a strange fluctuation suddenly came from the void. Under the moonlight, a pitch-black crack opened. All the demonic cultivators noticed the crack. "Is the secret realm the entrance to the secret realm? Quick, enter the secret realm." The group of demonic cultivators immediately rushed towards the secret realm. The Euphoria sect master and the Ashura sect master wanted to enter too, but they dared not act rashly under Chu Kuangren's attack. At that moment, two terrifying auras forcefully entered the battlefield. The two auras were a finger strength and a saber ray that were filled with terrifying Taoist rhymes, and they were both locked onto Chu Kuangren. "That's an honorable supreme." Chu Kuangren was a little surprised. The descendant's self-sword at his waist suddenly unsheathed, and a dazzling sword ray erupted. The sword ray was like a flood, shattering the finger and saber ray. A powerful impact spread out, and even Chu Kuangren could not help but take a few steps back. It was his first time fighting an honorable supreme. Far in the night sky, 3 people arrived. Among them were 2 elders. One was wearing armor, and the other was wrapped in a black robe. Beside them was a young man, and that young man was staring at Chu Kuangren with hatred in his eyes. "Chu Kuangren, we meet again," the young man said in a deep voice. "Who are you?" Chu Kuangren glanced at the young man. "Chu Kuangren, you don't remember me?" The young man was shocked, and his expression turned even uglier. "I'm the one who fought you for the demonic spear of apocalypse 3 years ago in northern Lingdao state, Zhao Wujin. There's no way you don't remember me. 3 years ago there were many people who fought me for it. How could I remember all of them?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. Although he said that, he had already used the Eye of Revelation to check the information of those 3 people. That young man was the only demonic cultivator who escaped from the Weeping Demon Mountain battle. Chapter 160. Elder Sect Leader. The Ashura sect leader was overjoyed when he saw the armored Elder Sect leader beside Zhao Wujin. The Elder Sect leader glanced at him and snorted. "Thank goodness I followed you here out of worry. Otherwise you wouldn't even know how you died." "It's you, Chakra King?" The 7th forefather walked out from the void and stared at the cloaked elder with a serious look in his eyes. The Chakra King was one of the higher-ups of the demonic cultivator organization, the Underworld Palace. He was there during the Weeping Demon Mountain battle, and the demonic onslaught was planned by him and Zhao Wujin. There are 3 forces that have their eyes on the demonic Vanquish Lake. Other than the Euphoria sect and the Ashura sect, there's another mysterious force that we haven't been able to find out. "I guess it must be you guys," Chu Kuangren said. The Underworld Palace was the most mysterious demonic cultivator organization in Firmament Star. They were very powerful, so it was normal that the Qian nation could not find out anything about them. "Wujin, go to the secret realm and get the demonic heart. Leave this to us," the Chakra King said. "Yes." Zhao Wujin glared at Chu Kuangren before he dashed towards the secret realm of the demonic Vanquish Lake. Chu Kuangren did not stop him. An ant like him was not worthy of his attention. The most important thing now was to deal with the Chakra King and the Ashura sect's Elder Sect leader. Only the 7th forefather and Chu Kuangren had the ability to deal with them. Come to think of it, this is the first time I've fought against an honorable supreme. Seventh ancestor, you can pick one first. Chu Kuangren said. Let me deal with the Chakra King then. Back at the Weeping Demon Mountain, we didn't even have a clear winner. The seventh forefather took out his Azure Vine sword and locked onto the Chakra King with his powerful sword-based Taoist rhyme. Alright, leave this Ashura sect's old man to me. An honorable supreme is not an ordinary honorable. You must be careful, kid, the seventh forefather said solemnly. Don't worry, seventh forefather. I can handle it. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He was eager to fight. How dare a brat like that? Let me show you the difference between an honorable supreme and an honorable supreme. The Shura sect's elderly sect master snorted coldly. The killing intent around him was several times stronger than the Shura sect's elderly sect master. With a slash of the saber, surging killing intent gathered to form a saber light. Chu Kuangren did not retreat. With the descendant self-sword in his hand, a terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme erupted from both him and his sword. As he slashed out with his sword, a purple sword light burst forth and collided with the saber light. The two Taoist rhymes intertwined, giving off a brilliant glow in the dark night. Such a powerful sword chi. The Ashura sect elder was shocked. For a battle king to be able to fight against an honorable supreme like him, such a peerless genius was simply too rare. This person killed 100,000 devil cultivators at Weeping Devil Mountain, and now he's hindering my devil sect's plans. He's repeatedly opposed my devil Dao. If we don't get rid of him today, he'll definitely be a great calamity for the devil Dao in the future. Chu Kuangren must die. Murderous intent shot out of the Shura sect's elder sect master's eyes, and the murderous aura on his body also increased. In the end, a pitch-black figure holding a long saber formed behind him. A terrifying murderous aura emanated from that figure, and every cultivator on the battlefield narrowed their eyes as they trembled in fear. That murderous aura even spread to half of the capital city. Countless cultivators sensed it and looked at the source of the murderous aura in horror. It's the Ashura sect's great Ashura avatar. Rumor has it that the Ashura sect has an avatar cultivation technique that allows one to cultivate an Ashura avatar. It seems like the rumors are true. What a terrifying aura. I feel like I can't even fight back against this avatar, even if I'm an honorable. Everyone was shocked when they saw the great Ashura avatar. However, Chu Kuangren, who was facing the great Ashura avatar's domineering aura, was unperturbed. So this is the Ashura sect's great Ashura avatar? It looks quite intimidating, but I wonder how many of my attacks it can withstand. Kill. The Ashura sect's elder sect master activated his avatar, and the terrifying avatar wielded a huge long saber and slashed towards Chu Kuangren. The boundless murderous aura formed a force field around Chu Kuangren, trapping him like a swamp, making it impossible for him to dodge. Boom, 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 as the long saber slashed down, a series of explosions erupted in the void. A mysterious fluctuation emanated from Chu Kuangren's body as his Taoist rhymes manifested, turning into white lotuses in the void. It was the sage ruler technique, the white lotus light of purification. The huge saber shadow stopped abruptly when it landed on the white lotuses. The Taoist rhymes and spiritual power were continuously disintegrated, and the white lotuses also began to wither and shatter. In the end, the white lotuses were completely destroyed. However, that saber attack was also completely destroyed. Chu Kuangren stood where he was unscathed. That attack was quite powerful, Chu Kuangren said calmly. His white lotus light of purification was extremely powerful and had an unparalleled defense. Even an honorable would not be able to break it. However, the Ashura sect's elder sect master's saber attack could shatter the white lotuses in the sky. Although it did not hurt Chu Kuangren, it was still a rare feat. How is this possible? The Ashura sect's elder sect master was dumbfounded, his face filled with disbelief. He did not hold back at all in that attack. It was an all-out attack. Even so, it did not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. His opponent's strength far exceeded the Honorable Supreme's imagination. What realm are you in? The Ashura sect's elder sect master couldn't help but ask. I'm just a battle monarch, Chu Kuangren said. Upon hearing this, not only the Ashura sect master, all the other cultivators looked as though they wanted to curse out loud. This was a battle king? This guy was a battle king? Fuck that battle king. You've already done your part, so it's my turn now. At that moment, Chu Kuangren spoke. He slowly raised the descendant self-sword in his hand, and the blade trembled slightly. The white jade-like sword suddenly erupted with an aura that made everyone's scalp tingle. The Azura sect's elder sect master didn't dare to be careless. The spiritual energy in his body surged to the extreme and was continuously injected into the Azura Dharma form. A monstrous murderous aura rumbled in the dark night. Even so, the Ashura avatar still did not give the elder sect master any sense of security. On the contrary, as the sword-based Taoist rhyme on Chu Kuangren's body continued to rise, a sense of unease gradually welled up in his heart. What kind of move is this guy going to use? This Taoist aura is too terrifying. Buzz buzz, the sound of a sword ringing echoed in the air. Chu Kuangren's gaze froze. Then an emperor's aura suddenly shot out from the Taoist rhyme, causing everyone at the scene to be extremely terrified. Some of the weaker demonic cultivators were immediately pressed to the ground. They looked at Chu Kuangren, who was in the sky, as if they were looking at a high and mighty emperor. How is this possible? This aura, what the hell is going on? An emperor suppressing technique. He's using an emperor technique. Many demonic cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. Even the Chakra King of the Underworld Palace was shocked. It had been a long time since the Firmament Star had seen an emperor technique, but now Chu Kuangren was wielding his sword and casting an emperor technique right in front of them. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Chu Kuangren swung his sword, and in an instant, a purple sword ray lit up the entire dark night. It was a dazzling sight. Everyone who witnessed this scene would never be able to forget it. Chapter 161. Heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Chu Kuangren's calm voice formed a strong contrast with the majestic emperor technique, shocking everyone at the scene. The majestic purple sword ray contained an emperor's aura that gushed out. Wherever the sword chi passed, the void shook violently as if it was about to explode. The Ashura sect's elder sect master, who was targeted by the sword, felt extremely uneasy in the face of such unprecedented power. The Ashura avatar. He roared as he channeled the spiritual power in his body into the avatar to unleash a slash. The saber ray and the purple sword ray collided, and the majestic sword ray almost crushed the saber ray in a crushing manner. The Ashura avatar had no way to defend against this attack. The moment it came into contact with the sword ray, its Taoist rhymes and spiritual power instantly disintegrated and exploded into spiritual power turbulence. The sword ray was unstoppable as it engulfed the Ashura sect's elder sect master. His armor cracked and shattered under the sword ray. No! With a scream, the Ashura sect's elder sect master's body was torn into pieces by the sword chi, and a large amount of blood sprayed out. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the gluttonous devouring technique, sucking the Ashura sect's elder sect master's body into the avarice dimension to refine his flesh and blood essence. The flesh and blood essence of an honorable supreme was a great tonic. After killing the Ashura sect master, the sword ray smashed onto the ground, and everyone in the capital city felt the ground shake. As dust and smoke rose, everyone saw a huge crack that was thousands of meters long and hundreds of meters deep in the ground. It was like a canyon. The forest that was there had long been destroyed. What a terrifying sword technique. Oh my god, is this the power of an emperor technique? It's so powerful that an honorable supreme was killed with a single slash. Rumor has it that Chu Kuangren sparred with a sage and created an emperor technique. It seems like it's true now. What kind of monster is he? We have no chance of winning. Chu Kuangren's single slash had shocked the demonic cultivators so much that they did not dare to resist. All they wanted was to leave this place as soon as possible. Unfortunately, King Qian was leading an army, and he had the help of Honorable Qing Lan and Old Lady Meng. These demonic cultivators could not escape at all. At that moment, several figures rushed out from the spatial crack not far away. These people were the cultivators who had taken advantage of the chaos to enter the mystic realm with the intention of snatching the demon heart. Zhao Wujin was also among them. Seeing him come out, the Chakra King, who was not far away, was delighted. Wuji, have you got the demon heart? The demonic heart has already disappeared. Someone beat us to it. Zhao Wujin's expression was unsightly. The Chakravarti King and the rest of the demonic cultivators were not much better. They had gone through so much trouble to obtain this demonic heart, but now someone had gotten it before them. This made them feel like vomiting blood. This was especially the case for the Azura sect's Grandmaster. Not only was the old Grandmaster dead, his demon heart was gone as well. This was truly a case of going for wool and coming home shorn. Leave. The Chakravarti King forced the seventh forefather to retreat with a single finger. He then pulled Zhao Wujin along and was about to leave the scene. However, a large amount of sword qi gathered in the air and formed 12 long pillars of sword qi. It was the 9-heaven sword prison anomaly. None of the demonic cultivators who came here today shall leave this place alive, Chu Kuangren said coldly. He who had just killed an honorable supreme, had an ice-cold killing intent circulating around his body. All the demonic cultivators present were terrified. Under the encirclement of King Qian and the others, the number of demonic cultivators continued to decrease. Only a few experts were still struggling to hold on. Kill Chu Kuangren first, then break the 9-heaven sword prison. The Azura sect master shouted as he led a group of demonic cultivators towards Chu Kuangren. Although they knew that they had no chance of winning, it was the only thing they could do. The weakest of the demonic cultivators who were charging towards Chu Kuangren was at least an honorable realm cultivator. Not to mention honorables like the Azura sect master and the Euphoria sect master. Even a normal battle monarch would be scared to death in the face of such a powerful aura. Unfortunately, their opponent was Chu Kuangren. Phantom light strike. No one could see how Chu Kuangren moved. All they saw was a ray of light flashing in front of them. Then they felt a terrifying force erupt from their bodies, almost shattering their flesh and bones. That was the power of the human mountain stamp. Boom boom boom. A ray of light moved swiftly within the group of demonic cultivators, sending them flying one by one. Those who were lightly injured spat out blood, while those who were severely injured were directly blasted into a cloud of blood mist. Not long after, more than 10 honorable demonic cultivators were all beaten to the ground, unable to resist at all. Gluttonous devouring technique. Chu Kuangren revealed himself, and a pitch-black cave appeared in the middle of his palm like the mouth of a giant beast. One by one, the demonic cultivators were sucked into the cave and refined. How can he be so terrifying? Not far away, Zhao Wujin's face turned pale when he saw what happened. He had improved a lot in the past 3 years, and he initially thought that he had closed the gap between him and Chu Kuangren. However, from the looks of it now, the gap was getting bigger and bigger. You who slipped through the net 3 years ago, you shall die too. Chu Kuangren's gaze suddenly fell on Zhao Wujin. Zhao Wujin's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly channeled his spiritual power to maximize his Taoist physique strength. Supreme demonic physique, desolate heaven fist. A powerful Taoist rhyme erupted as he threw out a punch. That attack was not much weaker than an honorable's attack, but Chu Kuangren only needed to gently slap his palm to instantly shatter that Taoist rhyme. That horrifying power terrified Zhao Wujin, and he hurriedly begged the Chakra King for help. Teacher, please save me. However, when the 9-heaven sword prison was cast, the Chakra King was occupied by the 7th forefather and could not spare any time to save Zhao Wujin. Chu Kuangren turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of Zhao Wujin. He immediately slammed his palm onto the top of Zhao Wujin's skull, and the horrifying palm energy crushed his meridians, bones and flesh completely. Then he unleashed the gluttonous devouring technique. Before his opponent could even scream, he was sucked into the avarice dimension and refined. Moreover, he realized that although Zhao Wujin's cultivation was not as strong as those honorables, the blood and flesh essences that he refined were far superior to those honorables. Is it because of the supreme demonic physique? Compared to cultivation, physique factors are more likely to affect the effects of the gluttonous devouring technique. Chu Kuangren figured it out after some thought. Wujin. The Chakra King's eyes were bloodshot when Zhao Wujin was killed. After all, Zhao Wujin was the successor that he had painstakingly chosen, but now Chu Kuangren had killed him without even leaving a corpse behind. Chu Kuangren, you said that we're demonic cultivators. But your actions are more like demonic cultivators than we are. Absorbing other people's blood and flesh essences to increase your cultivation. If word of this gets out, you'll no longer have the face to call yourself a righteous cultivator. The Chakra King roared. However, Chu Kuangren did not care at all. Those words alone could not shake his Taoist core. Techniques don't control people, but people control techniques. In your hands this is a demonic technique, but in my hands, it's a demonic weapon. Chu Kuangren said calmly. After refining more than 10 honorables, and even supreme honorables, his aura was steadily rising. He had broken through a small realm and reached the battle monarch realm. The Chakra King's expression was extremely ugly. With the 7th forefather and Chu Kuangren behind him, he had no chance of winning this battle. Chapter 162. Chu Kuangren. Let's die together. The Chakra King growled in a low voice. Following that, an extremely powerful aura burst from his body. The spiritual chi in the surroundings boiled like oil in a raging fire, gushing into his body in a frenzy. His spiritual energy was also increasing rapidly. The seventh forefather's expression changed. This is the Great Sky Demonic Disintegration Technique. The Great Sky Demonic Disintegration Technique. Are you trying to take me down with you? Great Taoist runes flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes as he analyzed the Chakra King. The Great Sky Demonic Disintegration Technique was a mysterious technique that originated from demonic orthodoxies. It burned the foundation of one's body to rapidly increase one's combat strength, but this technique could kill 800 enemies at the cost of 3,000 lives. The user's cultivation base would be completely destroyed, and the worst-case scenario would be death on the spot. It was a suicidal technique that was considered a taboo even among demonic orthodoxies. There were very few demonic cultivators who cultivated this technique. The Chakra King was one of them. He knew that he had no hope of escaping, which was why he chose to use this technique. Boom. A sonic boom was heard in the void. The Chakra King disappeared from where he stood and charged towards Chu Kuangren. With a punch, a violent surge of spiritual power and cold Taoist rhyme erupted and locked onto Chu Kuangren. White Lotus Light of Purification. White lotuses appeared around Chu Kuangren's body, nullifying the Chakra King's first wave of attack. However, the second wave of attack was already upon him. Human Mountain Stamp. Chu Kuangren channeled the spiritual power within his body and unleashed a palm attack. The Human Mountain Taoist rhyme erupted and took on the Chakra King's second punch. A loud explosion rang out and space shook. A shockwave swept out like a storm and a good number of the surrounding cultivators were sent flying. Just as the Chakra King was about to continue his attack, the seventh forefather had already unleashed a sword ray in an attempt to force him back. However, the Chakra King made an unexpected move. Instead of retreating or evading, he took the sword ray head-on. Then he waved his arms and activated his Taoist rhyme, looking like he was determined to kill Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was too amazing. Even the Chakra King was terrified. If he did not die, he would definitely become the enemy of the Underworld Palace and even the entire demonic orthodoxy. Besides, Chu Kuangren had killed Zhao Wujin, so the Chakra King hated him to the core. Since he was going to die, he would drag Chu Kuangren down with him. Sage Technique In Ender Finger. The Chakra King pointed his finger out and a cold and domineering finger strength landed on Chu Kuangren's shoulder. With a poof, the finger force pierced a large hole in the other party's shoulder, almost knocking off his entire arm. However, what happened next left the Chakra King dumbfounded. The bloody hole on Chu Kuangren's shoulder had a large amount of granulation tissue growing. First it was the bones, then the flesh, and finally the skin. In an instant, the bloody hole was completely healed. His skin was as white as jade and he didn't seem to be injured at all. How could this be? The Chakra King was dumbfounded. What kind of technique was this? Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, seized the opportunity while his opponent was still in a daze to unleash his descendant self-sword chi and blast his opponent away. After that, Chu Kuangren stood proudly in the air as the 5 supreme foundation levels within his body radiated with a dazzling divine light. Light patterns flowed on the surface of his body, making it look like gold or jade. With the golden jade body's support, his spiritual power was pushed to the limit. Heaven-rending drawing technique. The Emperor technique was performed again, and the vast Emperor's aura locked onto the Chakravarti King. A terrifying purple sword light burst out. In the blink of an eye, the Chakravarti King was killed on the spot. Tonight, Chu Kuangren had consecutively killed 2 honorable supremes. With the descendant self-sword in his hand, he was dressed in a peerless white robe, and his jet-black hair reached his waist. Sword-based Taoist rhymes emanated from his body, and under the moonlight, he looked like a sword deity. Everyone could not help but be moved by his peerless demeanor. Brother Chu is truly a god. In the crowd, Li Xingqian could not help but exclaim. Meanwhile, the sage ruler remnant spirit within his body was also amazed. I don't think there are more than a handful of such peerless characters throughout the ages. Yes indeed. Li Xingqian nodded in agreement. He then said, Teacher, now that your heart is in our hands, what should we do next? When we get back, I'll teach you how to refine it. The sage ruler remnant spirit could not suppress the excitement in her tone. Li Xingqian was a little confused, but he did not think too much about it. He only thought that his teacher was happy that his strength had increased again. The massacre lasted for the entire night, and it only stopped when dawn broke. The group of demonic cultivators had been wiped out. The crack to the secret realm had also closed. It's a shame that we couldn't find that demonic heart, King Qian said disappointedly when they returned to the palace. That was a sage ruler's heart. Even if it was a demonic heart, it was still extremely tempting. To a cultivator who had yet to become a sage, its value was extraordinary. Perhaps the rumors were wrong, the seventh forefather said. Perhaps. King Qian shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He then cupped his fists at Chu Kuangren and said, "It's all thanks to Brother Chu that we were able to wipe out the demonic cultivators this time. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do it alone." "You're too kind, King Qian. By the way, where's Brother Li?" Chu Kuangren smiled and asked about Li Xingqian's whereabouts. King Qian said, "He seems to have gone to rest. Fellow Li has contributed a lot in eliminating the devil cultivators this time. As expected of the young master of the White Jade Tower. I'm really sorry for capturing him because of a misunderstanding. Brother Li is not a narrow-minded person. Since King Qian doesn't mind, I'll leave the rest to you." "All right, Brother Chu, go and rest." "All right." After Chu Kuangren went back, he began to organize the loot from the battle. He had gained quite a lot from this battle. He had used the gluttonous devouring technique to absorb a lot of demonic cultivators' flesh and blood essences, which helped his cultivation level to improve. Moreover, the honorables, especially the Chakra King, were all very wealthy. Just the soul stones alone had a few million top-tier ones. There were also some natural treasures like spiritual marrows, which he fed to the godly phoenix egg. Besides that, he had used the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique twice this time, so he had a general understanding of the Emperor technique's power. Although it was his own creation, an Emperor technique was still an Emperor technique. With his current strength, he could not fully unleash its power. However, no one below the sage level could block this sword. "Young man, it won't be long before you no longer need us as your protectors," the seventh forefather said emotionally. He felt a little melancholic. Chu Kuangren's growth was too fast. He could already kill honorable supremes and was even more powerful than them. Why would he need their protection? "Seventh forefather and the others have been my protectors for a short time, but I, Chu Kuangren, will always remember your kindness," Chu Kuangren said solemnly. "By the way, Senior Meng, I plan to stay in the Qian King Palace for a few more days. I have some medicinal ingredients here, can you help me collect them?" Then Chu Kuangren took out a prescription and handed it to old lady Meng. She took a look and was shocked. "Fiancé, this is the prescription for the life extension pill. Are you going to refine the life extension pill?" "That's right. Senior Meng, although there's still some time before you reach Heavenly Deterioration Stage 5, I plan to refine a batch of life extension pills for you first." Chu Kuangren smiled. Old lady Meng was touched when she heard that. She then trembled as she knelt before Chu Kuangren. "Fiancé, I'm very grateful for your understanding. Please get up. This is what you deserve," Chu Kuangren said. "Thank you, fiancé," old lady Meng said before she went to prepare the medicinal ingredients. Chapter 163. In one of the side halls of the Qian King Palace. Li Xingqian sat on his bed, his expression changing. Sometimes he was angry, sometimes he was happy, and sometimes he was sinister. Get out of my body," Li Xingqian said furiously. But in the next second, his expression became gloomy again. "My good disciple, lend your body to your master. I shall make your name known throughout the world." It was as if there were two personalities alternating inside his body. Li Xingqian's expression changed again. "I don't want to. So you wanted me to take your heart not to help me improve my strength, but to wait for me to refine this demonic heart before you take over my body. Ha, you found out too late. This is the power of my eternal soul transference technique. As long as my demonic heart is not destroyed, I will not die. As long as someone refines this demonic heart, I can take over their body and be reborn. Why did you choose me?" Li Xingqian gritted his teeth. TSK, this is fate. You met me and you have the starlight physique, extraordinary talents, and the White Jade Hotel as your background. If I don't take over your body, who else would I take over?" The Eternal King sneered. "Don't worry, I will inherit everything you have. I will use your parents and background to help me ascend the throne." "No." Li Xingqian let out a low roar. Then, as if he had lost all his strength, he lowered his head and fell silent. After a while, Li Xingqian raised his head and a dark light flashed across his eyes. "I finally suppressed this guy's soul. Now, I just need to completely merge with the demonic heart." Once he had completely merged with the demonic heart, he would be reborn as the eternal Sage King, and Li Xingqian would no longer exist. Li Xingqian, my good disciple, don't you worry. Li Xingqian chuckled. At this time, Chu Kuangren was in an alchemy room in the Qian King Palace. He was planning to refine a batch of life extension pills for Old Lady Meng. As his Taoist protector, Old Lady Meng had been working very hard all this time. Although Chu Kuangren did not say it out loud, he knew that it was time for him to do something to show his appreciation. It just so happened that refining the prolonging life pill was not a difficult task for him, although he could not refine the Starlight grade prolonging life pill that was comparable to a Saint grade pill due to the lack of medicinal ingredients. However, supreme beings who were slightly weaker could still do it. Not long after, a large amount of pill chi soared into the sky from the alchemy room, and an incomparably surging vitality swept through half of the palace. Many cultivators in the palace sensed this vitality. What a strong life force and elixir energy. Could it be that someone is concocting the prolonging life pill? The prolonging life pill is divided into several grades, but this kind of Dan Qi is at least a supreme grade prolonging life pill. Only a Grandmaster alchemist would be able to refine it. That's not right. How could there be an alchemist of this level in our palace? Who is he? Quick, let's go take a look. The phenomenon of refining the prolonging life pill had attracted many people. The Eternal Sage King, who had just completed his possession, also noticed it. Such a phenomenon. There's an alchemist refining the pill. I didn't expect to meet one here. How rare. A person of this level is very useful to me now. It's worth befriending him. He will definitely be of help to my cultivation in the future. Li Xingqian muttered to himself before he dashed toward the source of the Dan Qi. Above the alchemy room, pill clouds gathered. 1, 2, 3, a total of 9 pill clouds emitted auspicious golden light. Waves of surging vitality and Taoist rhymes filled the air, shocking all the cultivators. King Qian, who had just arrived, was dumbfounded. Although he did not study alchemy, he knew what 9 pill clouds represented. 9 pill clouds. Moreover, this scale of Dan Qi means that it's an honorable grade pill, a grade 9 supreme grade pill. King Qian's voice was trembling. He had never heard of anyone who could refine a grade 9 supreme grade pill, not even a Grandmaster alchemist. This isn't Grandmaster alchemist. Only a legendary Grandmaster alchemist can refine a supreme grade pill like this. Who is it? Who's in the alchemy room? All the cultivators who rushed to the scene were shocked by the scene before them. Even Li Xingqian was shocked. A grade 9 supreme grade pill and Grandmaster alchemist. I can't believe someone like this has appeared. I must befriend this person. Li Xingqian said with a fiery gaze. Soon he noticed that there were a few people guarding outside the alchemy room. It's them. Li Xingqian was slightly surprised. Those people were Lan Yu and the 3 protectors who were by Chu Kuangren's side. However, Chu Kuangren was nowhere to be seen. He was a little curious. The protectors are almost inseparable from Chu Kuangren. Why are they here but not Chu Kuangren? Li Xingqian walked up to them. Greetings, seniors. Little friend, you're here too. The 7th forefather nodded slightly. Li Xingqian felt a little uncomfortable being called a little friend. After all, he was now a sage ruler who had reincarnated into another body. Whether it was in terms of experience or cultivation, he was much more experienced than the 7th forefather. How could he not feel uncomfortable being called a little friend? However, he hid it well and did not show it. Who's in this alchemy room? Also, where did Brother Chu go? Previously, he was in a remnant spirit state and could not wait to avoid Chu Kuangren. However, now that he had reincarnated into another body, even a sage would not be able to see through him. Naturally, he was not afraid of Chu Kuangren finding out anything. Had the bachelor sages in the alchemy room? Honorable Qing Lan smiled. Oh, could it be that Brother Chu is familiar with that alchemy grandmaster? No, the bachelor sage is the alchemist. Li Xingqian's face revealed a hint of shock as he said, Seniors, you're not joking with me, are you? The 7th forefather smiled faintly and said, I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. Li Xingqian was completely shocked. Chu Kuangren was an alchemy grandmaster? His cultivation talent was amazing, his combat strength was extraordinary, and he was an alchemy grandmaster too. Was there any justice in this world? What a shame. How great would it be if the person I took over was Chu Kuangren? With his talent and alchemy skills, coupled with my cultivation experience as a sage ruler, I'll definitely be able to rise quickly and ascend to the emperor realm. Li Xingqian lamented in his heart. If he wanted to take over a body, he would naturally have to find a sky pride with good cultivation talent. However, compared to Chu Kuangren, all the sky prides in the world were like dust. Now that I've reincarnated as Li Xingqian, I must build a good relationship with Chu Kuangren. Even if I can't borrow his strength, it's better not to make him my enemy unless it's absolutely necessary. He was aware of his current situation. Having just taken over a body, he was definitely no match for Chu Kuangren. He still needed time to grow. With a creak, the alchemy room's door opened and Chu Kuangren walked out with a small jade bottle in his hand. Inside the bottle were a few golden pills. They were the 9th grade Honorable Supreme Pills, the Life Extension Pills. Senior Meng, there are a total of 12 Supreme Pills here. If you take one every month, it should be able to extend your life by about 3,000 years. Thank you, fiancé. Old Lady Meng was so grateful that she took the pills with trembling hands. Chapter 164. I didn't expect Brother Chu to be an alchemy grandmaster as well. How versatile you are, King Qian said as he walked up to him. The crowd of cultivators behind him also surrounded him and complimented him. Brother Chu, not only are you talented but you also know how to refine pills. That's amazing. I'm impressed. That's right. This old man also knows a little about the Tao of alchemy, but compared to fellow Chu, my knowledge pales in comparison. Brother Chu, I have a 20-year-old daughter in my family. She admires you very much. When can you meet her? The cultivators were all talking at once. Some of them even started to promote their daughters. King Qian's mouth twitched as he looked at the group of cultivators. These embarrassing people did not know how to be reserved at all. Brother Chu, I have a daughter who is proficient in the 4 arts. Do you need me to ask her to keep you company? King Qian smiled gently. The crowd of cultivators was speechless. They could not be blamed for that. After all, Chu Kuangren's abilities were just too shocking. Combat strength aside, who could guarantee that they would not experience headaches or fever just from his alchemy abilities alone? Who could guarantee that they would not experience heavenly deterioration stage 5? Chu Kuangren's alchemy grandmaster abilities were too valuable. As long as he wanted to, he could extend the lives of most cultivators. That alone was enough to make Chu Kuangren fearless even if he did not have the strength to truss a chicken. On the contrary, many wanted to befriend him. Facing the enthusiastic King Qian and the crowd of cultivators, Chu Kuangren kept a smile on his face as he dealt with them one by one. After a while, he looked at Li Xingqian who was beside him. Brother Li, you contributed a lot in clearing the demonic onslaught yesterday. Thank you for your hard work. It's my pleasure. But Brother Chu has given me a surprise today. I didn't expect you to know alchemy as well. I can't survive without some life skills these days. Chu Kuangren laughed. You must be joking, Brother Chu, Li Xingqian said. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Xingqian and frowned. He felt that Li Xingqian was a little off today, but he could not pinpoint what it was. Chu Kuangren immediately activated his Eye of Revelation. However, what he saw made his pupils shrink. Eternal Sage King in a state of possession. After his physical body perished 50,000 years ago, he has existed in the form of a remnant spirit. He cultivates the eternal soul transfer technique. Li Xingqian's soul is in hibernation. Information about the Eternal Sage King flashed past his vision. As for Li Xingqian, he was only in a state of hibernation. However, Chu Kuangren breathed a sigh of relief that the other party was still alive. Then he said calmly, Brother Li, how about going for a walk with me? How could I dare to refuse Brother Chu's invitation? Please. The two of them left the side hall and strolled around the palace. Along the way, the maidservants came and went, and when they saw Chu Kuangren and Li Xingqian, they would respectfully bow to them. Greetings, young Master Chu and young Master Li. Yes. After a pair of maidservants passed by, Chu Kuangren said, Brother Li, you've changed. You don't even look at these pretty girls anymore. Hearing this, Li Xingqian's heart skipped a beat. Only then did he remember that Li Xingqian used to be a stickler for appearances. When he saw good-looking people, he could not help but take a second look. However, now that there were so many beautiful maidservants in the palace, he did not even look at any of them. Did this make Chu Kuangren suspicious? Brother Chu, you must be joking. In terms of looks, Brother Chu is the most beautiful person in this world. With you here, no one else can enter my eyes. Li Xingqian laughed and brushed it off. You're giving me goosebumps. Chu Kuangren looked at Li Xingqian strangely. Brother Chu, please don't misunderstand. I'm not that interested. The two of them and Lan Yu came to a garden. Seeing that there was no one around, Chu Kuangren said, During the battle last night, the demonic cultivators came for the demonic heart, but it has disappeared. Who do you think has it? How would I know? Oh, it's beating in your body. Don't you know? Hearing this, Li Xingqian's face froze. How did Chu Kuangren know that he had a demonic heart? Brother Chu, I didn't mean to lie to you, but this demonic heart is very important. I was afraid that you'd think I've strayed into the demonic path, so I hid it from you because I couldn't think of a way to explain it. Li Xingqian quickly explained. Alright, stop pretending, Eternal Sage King. Chu Kuangren laid his cards on the table. With a thought, the Battle Monarch domain had already locked onto Li Xingqian, suppressing him. Even though he was a Sage King, he was still in the form of a remnant spirit. Although he had taken over Li Xingqian's body, Chu Kuangren's domain still made him feel an immense pressure. It was as if he was a mortal in a swamp, unable to move. However, the pressure from the domain was nothing compared to the pressure in his heart. The Eternal Sage King looked at Chu Kuangren in shock, not knowing how Chu Kuangren saw through his identity. He had just taken over Li Xingqian's body last night. How could he be seen through today? This was too fast. Brother Chu, what are you talking about? Why would I? Li Xingqian, no, the Eternal Sage King wanted to say something, but the domain energy suddenly increased, pressing him to the ground. Get out of Li Xingqian's body. Chu Kuangren said coldly. The Eternal Sage King felt extremely aggrieved. As a Sage King, he had never bowed down to anyone before, let alone kneeling like a dog in front of someone. Although he did not know how Chu Kuangren did it, he knew that Chu Kuangren's determination meant that he had seen through his identity. Chu Kuangren, you better be careful. This body now belongs to Li Xingqian. I'm now one with him, so if I die, he will die too. The Eternal Sage King said coldly. Oh, so you're threatening me now. So what if I am? What can you do to me? I don't know how you saw through my identity, but if you don't want Li Xingqian to die, you better let me go. The Eternal Sage King sneered. The Eternal Soul Transference technique was very powerful. His remnant spirit had attached itself to Li Xingqian's body, and it had merged with his own demonic heart. The spirit and physical body had merged so perfectly that no one could separate them. Just in time, I'll use you to test this thing out. With a flash of light in Chu Kuangren's hand, a pitch-black chain suddenly appeared. An incomparably gloomy aura suddenly spread out. This aura made the Eternal Sage King's pupils dilate, and a very uneasy feeling arose in his heart. What is this? The Eternal Sage King asked in shock. Chu Kuangren did not answer him. He threw the hook end of the chain out, and the chain suddenly became a little illusory as it pierced straight through the Eternal Sage King's body. At that moment, the Eternal Sage King's expression turned into one of extreme fear. What are you doing? His remnant spirit began to tremble uncontrollably as if it had met its natural enemy. Come out. Chu Kuangren snorted coldly, and with a violent tug, the chain flew out from Li Xingqian's body. At the same time, it pulled out a gray-robed, white-haired elder. This elder was hooked by the hook of the chain and was tightly bound, unable to move. It was the Eternal Sage King's remnant spirit. How is this possible? How is this possible? Chapter 165. How is this possible? How is this possible? The Eternal Sage King, who had been dragged out of Li Xingqian's body by the Soul Retriever, was in disbelief. He could feel that the Soul Retriever was constantly releasing a chilling aura to numb his sage spirit. This is a weapon that targets the soul. And it's of a very high grade. How did you get something like this? The Eternal Sage King roared. Weapons that targeted the soul were too rare. Even he had never seen one before. He had only heard of it. Chu Kuangren had such a weapon on him, and it just so happened to be used against him, who had just successfully taken over his body. The Eternal Sage King was so angry that his sage spirit was trembling. Destiny, is this destiny? Do you really want me dead? No, not even that sage war could kill me. I refuse to believe that a mere chain can do anything to me. The Eternal Sage King struggled with all his might as his sage spirit trembled violently. Chu Kuangren gently tugged on the Soul Retriever, and the chilling aura on the Soul Retriever intensified. The Eternal Sage King was corroded by that energy, and his sage spirit was frozen into an ice sculpture. Chu Kuangren, what do you want? The Eternal Sage King said weakly. I'm a little curious. What do you mean by sage war? Tell me and I might spare your life, Chu Kuangren said. The Eternal Sage King's expression changed. However, he was now on Chu Kuangren's chopping block. He had no choice but to listen to him if he did not want to die. The Sage War was a great war that took place 50,000 years ago. All the participants were sages, which is why it's called the Sage War. Wait, all the participants were sages? Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. He glanced at Lan Yu, who was beside him. Lan Yu was also quite surprised. 50,000 years ago, all the participants were sages. It seems that this was the war that the sage ruler Light participated in. Lan Yu said. When she obtained the Scepter of Light, she had obtained some memory fragments of the sage ruler Light. One of them was a terrifying war that also took place 50,000 years ago. If she was not mistaken, it was the Sage War that the Eternal Sage King mentioned. Sage Ruler Light? There was indeed a Sage Ruler who participated in the Sage War. I have some impression of him, the Eternal Sage King said. Continue. What is the Sage War's purpose? To become a martial emperor. In that age of chaos, the great Tao did not appear. In order to become emperors, the saints set up a great formation and let the saints fight inside, causing the saints' Taos to interweave and collide. They tried to use this method to stimulate the great Tao and make the great Tao manifest, making the opportunity to become emperors appear. The Eternal Sage King explained. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised to hear that. I didn't know there was such a method. To become an emperor, you guys really put in a lot of effort. Did you guys succeed? I don't know. I didn't make it to the end in the Sacred War. However, before my physical body perished, I saw the sage's Taos interweave into golden auspicious clouds in the sky. The great Tao manifested and the Emperor's Qi appeared. Wait, Emperor Qi? Yes. The corner of Chu Kuangren's mouth twitched. Did you guys create such a huge commotion just for 1 or 2 streams of primordial Emperor's essences? I know what you're thinking. It's not worth it. The Eternal Sage mocked himself. He now had 49 streams of primordial Emperor's essences, and he did not even need to start a sacred war. This is the benefit of being in this era. Chu Kuangren, you weren't born during the Dharma decline era, so you don't know how crazy the people of that era were to become emperors. The Sacred War was just one of the many experiments. The Eternal Sage King said calmly. Alright, since the Sacred War was started and the Emperor's essences appeared, there must be a winner in the end, right? Who was it? I don't know. I've already said that my physical body perished midway. It was not until recently that my sage spirit awakened. As for what happened in the tens of thousands of years in between, I have no idea. The Eternal Sage King shook his head. I see. Where is the battlefield of the Sacred War? Chu Kuangren asked the last question. In the past we called it the Tali Desert, but now you guys call it the Ancient Battlefield. Oh, one of the 10 great forbidden areas, the Ancient Battlefield. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. The 10 great forbidden areas were the most dangerous places in Firmament Star. Even a sage might not come out alive after entering one of them. The Ancient Battlefield was one of them. It was said that countless battles had taken place in the Ancient Battlefield. It was surrounded by ferocious Qi all year round, making it extremely dangerous. I should go take a look when I have the chance. Chu Kuangren felt an urge to take a risk. He suppressed this impulse and tugged on the Soul Retriever. The Eternal Sage King let out a scream as the Soul Retriever unleashed a terrifying chilling energy that tore at his remnant spirit. Chu Kuangren, you went back on your word. The Eternal Sage King stared at Chu Kuangren with hatred. Did I promise you anything? I said that I might be able to keep you here, but it was just a possibility, not a certainty. Besides, what use is a remnant spirit like you to me? You even tried to harm my friend. If I don't kill you, do you think I'll keep you alive for the new year? Chu Kuangren curled his lips and pulled hard on the Soul Retriever. The Eternal Sage King's remnant spirit instantly shattered and disappeared. Chu Kuangren used the Eye of Revelation to check on Li Xingqian. He only felt relieved when he did not find the Eternal Sage King. Chapter 166. Just as Chu Kuangren was traveling around the world, a piece of news suddenly spread throughout the Azure Dragon domain, shocking many people. The sect leader of the Black Heaven sect, Honorable Xian Qi, was preparing to transcend his tribulation. This incident shook the entire Azure Dragon domain. One should know that once a venerable successfully transcended the heavenly tribulation, he would reach the quasi-sage realm. As long as he accumulated enough, he could become a sage in the future. Was the Black Heaven sect going to have another sage? For a time, the entire Azure Dragon domain was discussing this matter. The Black Heaven sect is a sage orthodoxy to begin with, so there must be a sage behind them. However, if there's another sage, then it'll be terrifying. That's right. Even if it's a sage orthodoxy, there won't be many sages behind them. Every additional sage is crucial. TSK, the prerequisite is that Honorable Xianqi successfully transcends the tribulation. Honorable Xianqi's ascension. Some people can't sit still anymore. When Honorable Xianqi was young, he roamed the entire firmament star and offended countless people. It would be strange if those people let him succeed in his ascension this time. I wonder what kind of trouble they'll cause. The world was abuzz with discussion. Chu Kuangren had also received the news. Honorable Teacher is going to ascend soon. Let's return to the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren made a prompt decision to end this trip and return to the Black Heaven sect instead. As for Li Xingxian, he tagged along to pay a visit. The atmosphere in the longevity hall of the Black Heaven sect was extremely tense. A few elders had gathered together and were discussing the arrangements for Honorable Xianqi's ascension this time, including the location, the tools, and so on. Chu Kuangren walked in amidst the lively discussion. The first seat is back. Madman. Chu Kuangren entered the grand hall and bowed to each of the elders. Then he looked at Honorable Xianqi and said with dissatisfaction, Master, you didn't even inform me about such a big thing like ascension. Aren't you treating me like an outsider? Haha, it's just a tribulation. Honorable Xianqi laughed. Chu Kuangren and the others were dumbfounded. It's just a tribulation? These words were easy to say. One should know that countless cultivators view the heavenly tribulations as nightmares. The slightest bit of carelessness would result in death. Honorable Teacher, how confident are you? Chu Kuangren asked. At least 70%. Honorable Xianqi smiled proudly. Only 70%? Isn't that too little? Chu Kuangren frowned. When the elders heard this, they looked at each other. Was 70% little? Honorable Xianqi shook his head and laughed. Madman, a 70% chance of success in something like transcending the ascension ordeal is already a miracle. Why don't you wait until you're 100% confident before going through the tribulation? Actually, I should have gone through the tribulation many years ago, but I've been accumulating my foundation all this time. Now I've reached my limit. Alright, when is the tribulation? 7 days later. There's still time. Honorable Xianqi was stunned. What do you mean? 7 days is enough for me to prepare some things for Master. 70% is too little, I need at least 90%. Chu Kuangren chuckled. In the next few days he started to get busy. On this day within the pill pavilion, a terrifying pill chi soared into the sky, condensing into 9 mysterious yellow pill clouds in the sky. Bursts of auspicious chi filled the air. Wherever the pill chi passed, the withered tree would receive a new lease of life. Many alchemists were attracted by this strange phenomenon. What a terrifying pellet aura. Is this a 9th grade sovereign pellet? No, it's probably a sage-to-be supreme pill. Is Elder Senior Brother refining the pill? Nonsense, who else other than Elder Senior Brother could do this? In the pill pavilion, the alchemy master Jianghu, who had just joined the Black Heaven sect not long ago, could not help but exclaim at the scene before him. A 9th grade sage supreme pill. I guess only Grandmaster Chu can refine something like this in the entire firmament star. This is too shocking. He had learned from Chu Kuangren for a while, but the more he learned, the more he felt that Chu Kuangren's alchemy level far exceeded his own. Not long after, Honorable Xianqi and the others arrived. They looked at each other when they saw the pill transformation in front of them. What's Kuangren up to this time? Why did I say again? The pill clouds dissipated, and the transformation disappeared. Everyone thought that Chu Kuangren had finished refining the pill, but the door to the alchemy room was still closed. Why isn't he out yet? Should we go in and take a look? Outside the door, Lan Yu said to Honorable Xianqi, Master said that if he doesn't come out, no one is to disturb him. Everyone was helpless and could only continue to wait. Not long after, another burst of pill chi soared into the sky, condensing into 9 pill clouds. Everyone was already used to it. The legendary 9th grade supreme pills in the alchemy world were as common as rice to Chu Kuangren. He could have them whenever he wanted. What a genius. One of the elders sighed. This was no longer something that could be described as a genius. This was a genius that defied common sense. About half an hour had passed. A creak was heard. The door to the alchemy room opened, and Chu Kuangren came out with 2 jade bottles, each containing a yellow and a green pill. Honorable Teacher, you're here. Nonsense, how could I not be here when you've caused such a big commotion? Honorable Xianqi said angrily. Disciple, aren't you worried about your tribulation? Chu Kuangren muttered, then handed the 2 jade bottles to Honorable Qianqi and said, "The yellow one is the rejuvenation pill, a sage supreme healing pill. It can quickly heal injuries. As long as you don't die, 1 pill will keep you alive. There are 3 in total, use them well during your ascension. There's only 1 green pill. This is the spring slumber pill, also known as the death-faking pill. If you feel like you can't hold on any longer, take this pill. It can put you in a state of suspended animation and deceive the heavenly tribulation. Although it's considered a failure, it's still better than losing your life." After Chu Kuangren finished introducing the 2 pills, he looked at the crowd and realized that everyone was looking at him like he was a monster. "What's wrong? Do you have any more questions?" "No." Elder Rian shook her head and said, "I just feel like I could do it if I were the one doing it." The pills given by Chu Kuangren were too precious. Without a doubt, they could greatly increase the success rate of ascension. The rejuvenation pill is a sage supreme healing pill. It's very rare, let alone a 9th grade supreme pill. I'm afraid it's not any weaker than a sage pill. Master Chu, you're amazing. Gujiang gulped and looked at the spring slumber pill with a puzzled expression. This is the spring slumber pill. Why haven't I heard of it before? It'd be weird if you've heard of it before. This is the pill recipe that I got from the gacha roll. Chu Kuangren muttered in his heart. This is the pill recipe that I obtained by chance. I've already tried it, so don't worry, honorable teacher, Chu Kuangren said. Honorable Qianqi kept the pills and smiled. Of course I believe you. You've done so much for me. Thank you. With these pills, I'm at least 80% confident. Chu Kuangren shook his head. I've already said that you need at least 90% confidence. 80% is still not enough. The few elders smiled bitterly. After all, a cultivator could take the risk if they had a 50% confidence in ascension. 70% was already the limit. 80% is not enough? F***ck me, then no one in this world would dare to attempt ascension. Chapter 167. Honorable teacher, please follow me, Chu Kuangren said. Then he brought Honorable Qianqi and the others to a secluded mountain. It was the place that Honorable Qianqi had decided on for the ascension. At this place, there were 4 black iron pillars standing at 4 corners, and there were mysterious runes engraved on them. When they arrived, they looked at the 4 iron pillars in confusion. What is this? I don't think this thing was here last time. The material of these iron pillars is special, and it seems to contain some kind of Taoist rhyme. This must be some kind of treasure. Kuangren, you didn't set this up, did you? Honorable Qianqi asked curiously. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Yes, these 4 iron pillars are called the Thundersoother rods. They can direct the power of the heavenly tribulation to the earth. Hearing this, the few of them were shocked. They had never heard of something like this that could direct the power of the heavenly tribulation. How could these iron pillars have such a magical effect? Led disciple, it's not that I don't believe you, but the ascension of the sect leader is not a trivial matter. Are these iron pillars really as magical as you say? One of the elders said. Chu Kuangren smiled without saying a word. He then walked into the 4 iron pillars and said to the elder, Second elder, I remember that you're cultivating the 9 heavenly lightning sword art. You can attack me now. I don't think that's a good idea. Second elder was a little hesitant. Do it. This? Second elder looked at Honorable Qianqi. Why are you looking at me? If Kuangren wants you to attack, just do it. With your cultivation level, how can you hurt him? Honorable Qianqi said with a smile. He had already learned about Chu Kuangren's current strength from the 7th forefather. Not to mention second elder, even he could not do anything to Chu Kuangren. Every time he thought of this, he would feel melancholy. His disciple was too powerful, and as his honorable teacher, he was under a lot of pressure. All right then. Second elder nodded. Then he focused his sword finger and a surge of lightning-based Taoist rhyme erupted and turned into a lightning sword chi. The lightning sword chi swept towards Chu Kuangren, but Chu Kuangren stood inside the iron pillar and did not move an inch. When the sword chi approached him, the lightning power trembled and was actually distorted by an invisible force. It struck the metal pillar and then disappeared. The second elder let out a soft gasp before he struck out with his sword again. This time it was stronger, but just like before, the lightning energy was channeled into the ground by the iron pillar. It could not hurt Chu Kuangren at all. Interesting. The second elder soared into the sky, and a terrifying Taoist rhyme of thunder instantly filled the air. Dark clouds gathered and thunder rumbled. A dazzling heavenly might engulfed the entire place, shocking everyone. Chief, I'm going to use my full strength. Please. Chu Kuangren smiled. Everyone watched with rapt attention. Thunder of the ninth heaven, for my use. The second elder let out a long roar, and the rolling thunder power in the dark clouds suddenly condensed into a huge thunder sword above his head. As the giant sword slashed down, the heavenly might shook the earth. Even a supreme honorable would not dare to be careless when facing this sword. However, Chu Kuangren remained motionless. Boom. As the giant sword descended, the void trembled wherever it passed. However, when the giant sword approached the 4 iron pillars, the violent lightning energy was instantly distorted and channeled back to the ground. All that was left was pure sword chi that surged towards Chu Kuangren. Without the support of the lightning energy, the sword chi did not pose any threat to him at all. The white lotus light of purification easily disintegrated the sword chi. Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. This iron pillar can really guide the lightning energy? Heavenly tribulations appear in the form of lightning. This means that this iron pillar really has the effect of guiding the heavenly tribulation energy. That's amazing. The second elder slowly landed on the ground and looked at the Thundersoother rod in awe. Chief, where did you get this treasure from? I got it by chance. Chu Kuangren smiled. The crowd's mouth twitched when they heard that. You got the pill recipe by chance and so did this Thundersoother rod. Why do you only have so many opportunities of fortune? You're really blessed by fortune, Chief. The second elder could not help but exclaim. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. Who asked him to be a cheat? He also got this Thundersoother rod from the lottery. Some time ago he got a lot of good things from the lottery. Some of them were temporarily unused, so he left them in his inventory without retrieving them. The Thundersoother rod was one of them. He had to go back and see if there was anything else he could use in this tribulation. He had to be more thorough in his preparations. Looking at Honorable Xianqi, who was admiring the Thundersoother rod, Chu Kuangren sighed in his heart. Honorable Master's ascension had caused his disciple to worry a lot. With the eternal rejuvenation pill and this Thundersoother rod, I can say that this ascension is in the bag. Honorable Xianqi laughed. Then he seemed to have thought of something and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. As long as those guys don't get in the way. Hearing this, Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Honorable Xianqi had offended many people when he was young in Firmament Star. Most of these people were now big shots. Whether it was strength or power, they could not be underestimated. Now that Honorable Xianqi was ascending, would they just sit back and watch? There's a sage in the Black Heaven sect. If those people want to come and cause trouble, they'll definitely find a way to deal with the sage. Only a sage can go against a sage. There are many sage orthodoxies in Firmament Star, but there are only a few who have a grudge against the Black Heaven sect. Who would come? Chu Kuangren thought. Inside a restaurant, a sloppy man with a broken arm was sitting in the corner, drinking. At that moment, a middle-aged man in a luxurious robe walked in front of the sloppy man and said, I can't believe the famous swordsman of the Azure Dragon domain 1,000 years ago has fallen to such a state. The sloppy man glanced at the middle-aged man. Who are you? Linghu Hong. Linghu? What a rare surname. From what I remember, the most famous Linghu clan is the Linghu family of the Scarlet Phoenix domain. The sloppy man burped. Are you? Yes. Why are you looking for me? Did you know that Honorable Xianqi is about to ascend? Boom. The wine jar in the sloppy man's hand suddenly exploded. He glared at Linghu Hong with bloodshot eyes. Don't you dare mention that name in front of me. Linghu Hong did not care about the sloppy man's reaction and said, You're poor here, but he's the leader of a sage orthodoxy. Now that he's about to ascend, once he succeeds, he'll become a sage. When that time comes, you and I are nothing more than ants in his eyes. Tell me, are you willing to watch all of this happen? If I remember correctly, he was the one who cut off your arm. So what if I'm not? That's a sage orthodoxy with a sage in charge. Do you think I can just kill my way up there? The sloppy man said dejectedly. The Linghu family has a sage too. What do you mean? The Linghu family will deal with the Black Heaven sect sage. You and I will kill our way up to the Black Heaven sect and stop Xianqi from ascending. If you're willing to stay here, I'll leave now. The sloppy man gulped down the last jar of wine, and a powerful sword chi suddenly erupted from his body. I've never reattached this broken arm so that I can remember the humiliation that Xianqi brought upon me. All these years I've been indulging myself, but I've never stopped cultivating. Now, it's time to settle the score with Honorable Xianqi. Chapter 168. Linghu Clan. Chu Kuangren could not help but be slightly surprised when he heard Elder Rian mention this organization. You're saying that the people from the Linghu family might come looking for trouble? Elder Rian nodded slightly. That's right. Back then, when sect leader was training outside, he had a conflict with Linghu clan's Heaven's Pride, Linghu Hong. Linghu Hong had suffered many losses at sect leader's hands, so he has always harbored a grudge. They might come and cause trouble during the sect leader's tribulation this time. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while. The Linghu clan. This is going to be a problem. In the current world of swordsmanship in the Firmament Star, there was a saying, one mountain, one sect and two clans, which referred to the four orthodoxies that were most proficient in swordsmanship. One was Tempest Mountain, and the other was Black Heaven sect. The two families were the Linghu family and the Murong family. The one mountain, one sect, and two clans were all sage orthodoxies, and they were all proficient in the way of the sword. There were constant conflicts between them, both openly and covertly, wanting to prove that their sect's way of the sword was the strongest. Their relationship was very unfriendly. In particular, the Linghu clan and the Black Heaven sect were like fire and water. In the past, Honorable Xian Qi had beaten Linghu Hong so badly that he could not even lift his head. The other party hated Honorable Xian Qi and the entire Black Heaven sect to the core. It was very likely that he would take advantage of Honorable Xian Qi's ascension to take action. Apart from Linghu Hong, sect leader has also offended quite a number of people when he was traveling in the past, such as Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries of the 7 Heroes of the Way of the Sword. When he was young, he challenged sect leader to a duel and was defeated by sect leader in 3 strikes. There's also Feng Wuchang. His arm was severed by the sect master. Also, the first elder of the Jadewater sect, the rogue cultivators of the 36 Isles, Supremacy Zhuolang, Supremacy Lifeless. Chu Kuangren's head was spinning from listening to her. Looking at Elder Rian who was still going on, he hurriedly cut her off. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Why does Master have so many enemies? Sai, who doesn't offend people when they're young and frivolous? Kuangren, didn't you offend quite a few geniuses as well? Elder Rian said indifferently. But this is too much. The corner of Chu Kuangren's mouth twitched. What kind of master did he have? You're so good at attracting hatred? After sending Elder Rian off, Chu Kuangren rubbed the space between his eyebrows. It seemed like he would be busy during Honorable Xian Qi's ascension this time. I hope they can be more open-minded and don't come looking for death. Chu Kuangren murmured as a cold light flashed across his eyes. Black Heaven sect on a mountain peak. Honorable Xian Qi sat on the ground inside the Thundersoother rod with his eyes slightly closed. There was a mysterious Taoist rhyme circulating around his body. At this moment he seemed to have sensed something and raised his head to look at the sky. He's here. As soon as he finished speaking, the clouds in the distance began to surge, as if ink had dripped into a basin of clear water and was gradually dyed with a layer of ink. Dark clouds gathered and surged towards him. Everywhere it passed, a brilliant heavenly might filled the air. Every single cultivator in the Black Heaven sect could feel it. It's a heavenly tribulation, a heavenly tribulation. What a terrifying aura. Sect leader's heavenly tribulation is finally here. This is my first time watching someone go through a tribulation. Once the sect leader succeeds in his ascension, our Black Heaven sect will have one more boundary sage. In the future we will have another sage. Yeah, I hope God blesses us. Don't worry, sect leader will definitely succeed. Everyone looked in the direction of the dark clouds, their eyes filled with anticipation. Elder Rian and the others quickly made their way to the mountain peak where Honorable Xian Qi was, ready to stand guard for him. On the mountain peak, Elder Rian, the 7th forefather, and the others stood guard. This guy is much more outstanding than I am. I haven't ascended in so many years, but he's already one step ahead of me. The 7th forefather looked at Honorable Xian Qi and smiled. Beside him, Elder Rian smiled and said, previously, 7th forefather entered the heavenly deterioration stage 5, which was why there was no hope for ascension. Now that you've returned to your peak, ascension is just around the corner. Our Black Heaven sect will definitely prosper. Compared to whether or not I can successfully ascend, the Black Heaven sect's prosperity still depends on that little guy, the 7th forefather said. Everyone knew who the little guy he was referring to was. Elder Rian agreed with him. Yeah, that kid Kuangren is too amazing. Just look at the ascension this time. Every single item he brought out is a peerless treasure. Whether it's opportunities of fortune or talent, he's unprecedented. Whether or not the Black Heaven sect can prosper forever depends on whether he can continue to grow and dominate this era. At that moment, a white-robed figure arrived not far away. It was Chu Kuangren, whom the seventh forefather and the others were discussing. Greetings, elder and seventh forefather. How's honorable teacher doing? Chu Kuangren bowed and asked. Seeing how worried he was for Honorable Shen-Chi, the crowd was relieved. Don't worry, lead disciple. The heavenly tribulation hasn't begun yet. Not bad. With these items that you've prepared, the sect leader's ascension this time is almost certain. Chu Kuangren nodded. I still can't be careless. Who knew what kind of trouble his honorable teacher's enemies would come up with? The dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker. The terrifying domineering aura grew stronger as well, and every living being within a 10,000-mile radius shuddered from the bottom of their hearts. Heavenly might. This was the true heavenly might. It's about to begin, the seventh forefather said solemnly. The dark clouds tumbled and formed a huge black vortex. Streaks of blue lightning flashed wildly within it. A blue beam of light suddenly descended from the sky and locked onto Honorable Shen-Chi. The beam of light was extremely terrifying as it sealed off the space, leaving Honorable Shen-Chi with no way to escape. He could only face the heavenly tribulation head-on. Otherwise he would perish under the heavenly tribulation. Honorable Shen-Chi slowly stood up as a surge of sword chi erupted from his body. Majestic sword-based Taoist rhymes circulated around his body. In the distance, the sword mountain trembled as a purple long sword rushed over like a stream of light. It rushed into the beam of light and stopped in front of Honorable Shen-Chi. This sword was the sacred sword Purple Star. Once, Honorable Shen-Chi wielded this sword and dominated the firmament star. After he became the Black Heaven sect leader, he returned the sword to the sword mountain. Old friend, let's fight this heavenly tribulation together. Honorable Shen-Chi held the purple star in a heroic manner. Meanwhile, in the distance, a violent energy wave erupted from the direction of the Black Heaven sect. Then, Elder Rian's communication compass vibrated. When she received the message, her expression instantly became extremely gloomy. Someone has come to the Black Heaven sect to cause trouble. Hearing this, everyone's expression became extremely strange. Even a fool would know that these people were here to cause trouble at the Black Heaven sect at this time for Honorable Shen-Chi. Then messages came one after another. There were people causing trouble everywhere in the Black Heaven sect, and many disciples had been injured or killed. ****, they're trying to lure us away from the sect leader. Elder Rian and the others were extremely angry. You guys go and deal with those small fries. At this time, Honorable Shen-Chi said. Sect leader, but you won't have anyone to protect you. Haha, I don't need protection. When I'm going through the heavenly tribulation, they won't dare to touch me. When I'm not going through the heavenly tribulation, they won't be able to touch me. Honorable Shen-Chi laughed loudly. When a cultivator was going through the heavenly tribulation, anyone who interfered would also become the target of the heavenly tribulation. Therefore, those people did not dare to touch Honorable Shen-Chi when he was going through the heavenly tribulation. They could only attack when the heavenly tribulation was charging up. At that time, Honorable Shen-Chi would be free. Go quickly. Let those people know that the Black Heaven sect is not a place where just anyone can come and cause trouble. Honorable Shen-Chi said. We'll be back as soon as possible. Elder Rian and the others gritted their teeth and led some people to quell the chaos. Chapter 169. Honorable Shen-Chi stood alone on the peak of the mountain, facing the lightning tribulation alone. Behind him were only Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. Chu Kuangren said to Lan Yu, you should go and help Elder Rian. Master, can you do it alone? They're just a bunch of thieves. I can handle them alone. Lan Yu hesitated for a moment, then nodded and left. Now, only Honorable Shen-Chi and Chu Kuangren were left on the mountain. Kuangren, why are you still here? Honorable Shen-Chi held the purple star sacred sword in his hand and turned to look at Chu Kuangren. To protect Honorable Teacher. Alright then. Watch how Honorable Teacher faces the heavenly tribulation. Perhaps it will be of help to you in the future. Honorable Shen-Chi laughed. Boom. At this moment, a blue lightning bolt as thick as a bucket fell from the black vortex, and its target was Honorable Shen-Chi. The first heavenly tribulation had begun. Honorable Shen-Chi's expression froze. When the lightning bolt was about to reach him, it was deflected by the thundersoother rod beside him. It directly hit the rod, and a large amount of lightning energy was directed to the ground. The first heavenly tribulation had been passed just like that. Honorable Xianqi was a little stunned. Kuangren, your Thundersoother rod is really extraordinary. This heavenly tribulation is too easy for me. Honorable teacher, don't be careless. This is only the first heavenly tribulation. There were at least 9 heavenly tribulations for cultivators, and each one was stronger than the last. The last one might even be comparable to a sage's attack. After the first heavenly tribulation, the rolling dark clouds were accumulating the power of the second heavenly tribulation, and there was no movement for the time being. Suddenly, Chu Kuangren's expression changed slightly. A murderous aura suddenly appeared in the air. Not far away, a sloppy man with a broken arm slowly walked up the mountain. This person's body was filled with extremely sharp sword qi, and the flowers and trees everywhere were all cut into pieces by the sword qi. It was a mess. Oh, it's you, Feng Wuchang. Honorable Xianqi glanced at the sloppy middle-aged man and recognized him. Honorable Xianqi, you've accepted a good disciple. In the entire Black Heaven sect, he's the only one to protect you. Feng Wuchang glanced at Chu Kuangren and said indifferently, "Hey, if it wasn't just me, would you dare to show yourselves?" Chu Kuangren sneered. Then he looked at the chopped flowers and trees behind him and said coldly, "Even if it's just a blade of grass or a tree, it belongs to the Black Heaven sect. No one can touch it." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his palm. Boundless energy of the earth gathered around him, and with a slap of his palm, a divine mountain instantly appeared. Feng Wuchang's expression changed slightly. He raised his hand and slashed out with his sword. The terrifying sword qi slashed onto the divine mountain, and the violent impact forced him to take a few steps back. What terrifying strength! Chu Kuangren truly lives up to his name. Feng Wuchang said solemnly. He had heard a lot of rumors about Chu Kuangren. Now that he was facing this peerless sky pride head-on, he felt a tremendous amount of pressure. When he thought of this, he became extremely jealous of Honorable Xianqi. Why was it that he had sunk into a wine shop all these years, while the other party was a high and mighty master of an orthodoxy, even taking in a disciple like this? This was too unfair. Haha, Honorable Xianqi, long time no see. Loud laughter could be heard as a sword ray flew towards them from afar. It landed in front of them and turned into a white-haired old man in a green robe. The sword qi around the old man was no weaker than Feng Wuchang's. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, a buzzing sound could be heard from the void. It was as if countless swords were vibrating. A white-haired man walked up from the foot of the mountain, holding an ancient longsword in his hand. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries. Honorable Xianqi revealed the man's identity. Ever since Honorable Swordsman White Cloud's death, Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries Sword Dao cultivation base was second only to him in the Azure Dragon domain. Of course, that did not include Chu Kuangren. Hee, what a grand occasion. An old man wrapped in a black robe walked over. His body was surging with a majestic Taoist rhyme, like the endless waves of the sea. One by one, the experts appeared and surrounded the mountain peak. The atmosphere was extremely tense. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation and scanned through the crowd. Looks like you guys brought quite a lot of people. The Jade Watersword Sect's senior elder, Feng Wuchang, Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries, Honorable Zhuolang, and the others who caused trouble in the Black Heaven sect. There must be a mastermind behind this. Still not coming out? Chu Kuangren looked somewhere in the void. A ripple appeared and Linghu Hong walked out from the void, looking at Chu Kuangren with admiration. Little guy, we're here for your honorable teacher. It has nothing to do with you. You can save your life if you leave now. Are you out of your mind? If you're here for my honorable teacher, how can it have nothing to do with me? Chu Kuangren curled his lips and said. Linghu Hong's face darkened when he heard that. You don't know what's good for you. Boom. At that moment, the second heavenly tribulation struck towards Honorable Xianqi. Everyone quickly looked over. They saw that the heavenly tribulation energy was still directed to the ground by the Thundersoother rod. The scene before them shocked Linghu Hong and the others. What is this? How can it direct the heavenly tribulation energy? What a great treasure. No wonder Honorable Xianqi dared to go through the heavenly tribulation. It's because of this item. Linghu Hong and the others' hearts skipped a beat. They felt that things had developed beyond their expectations because they did not know that the Black Heaven sect had such a treasure that was specifically designed to counter heavenly tribulations. Initially, they planned to attack Honorable Xianqi after he was done with the heavenly tribulation and was exhausted. However, It seemed that he had such a treasure that he could definitely save most of his energy to deal with them. "Aha, Linghu Hong, you've miscalculated. Today you're destined to come to the Black Heaven sect without leaving." Honorable Xian Qi laughed and held the purple star in his hand, ready to deal with Linghu Hong and the others first. At that moment, Chu Kuangren stepped forward and stopped him. "Honorable teacher, please save your energy to deal with the heavenly tribulation. Leave them to me." "What?" Not only Honorable Xian Qi but Linghu Hong and the others were also stunned. There were a total of 5 of them here and all of them were Honorable Supremes. Chu Kuangren actually said that he wanted to deal with all 5 of them alone? Who did he think he was? A sage? Arrogant. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries snorted coldly. "I'll kill you today. I'll show Sword Prayer City and the whole world that your so-called #1 position in the 100 Sword Spectrum is nothing but a joke." The 100 Sword Spectrum was widely recognized in the world of swordsmanship, but Chu Kuangren's ranking as #1 had always been controversial. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries was one of the people who disapproved of it the most. Kill. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries made his move. With his first slash, majestic sword chi gushed out as if 1,000 swords had formed a giant sword. In the face of this attack, Chu Kuangren's expression was incomparably calm. The Descendant Self-Sword appeared in his hand, and a terrifying Taoist rhyme instantly erupted. With one slash, the sky-covering purple sword ray tore apart the giant sword shadow in almost an instant and blasted onto Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries. The dignified Supreme Honorable Swordsman was directly blasted away by this slash. A large amount of sword chi wreaked havoc on Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries' body. His clothes were torn apart and sword wounds appeared on his body. In the blink of an eye, he was covered in blood and looked extremely pathetic. Just one slash was enough to make everyone's pupils shrink, severely injuring the Supreme Honorable Swordsman with one slash. What kind of terrifying strength was that? "I'm the #1 in the 100 Sword Spectrum and you dare to object?" Chapter 170. "I'm ranked first in the sword spectrum. Do you dare to object?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had severely injured Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries with just one attack, and at the same time, intimidated the remaining 4 Honorable Supremes. The few of them stared at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. Each of them was an Honorable Supreme, and they were Sky Prides who dominated their own regions when they were young. However, they now felt that their so-called talent was not even worth mentioning in front of Chu Kuangren. Severely injuring an Honorable Supreme with one attack. Since when was there such a monster in the younger generation? Let's attack together. Third Forefather Linghu can't hold off the Black Heaven sect sage for too long. We must end this quickly. Linghu Hong said. He made a prompt decision and attacked Chu Kuangren. With one attack, the might of an Honorable Supreme was fully unleashed. Let me see the sword techniques of a swordsman family. Chu Kuangren chuckled and unleashed all 3 Taoist physique transformations. 9 Heaven Sword Prison, Green Lotus Sword Song, Sword of the Heavens. A terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme surrounded Chu Kuangren, and a majestic spiritual power flowed within his body. Every time he swung his sword, the terrifying power brought great pressure to Linghu Hong. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's understanding of Tao techniques was too deep, and his exquisite 9 orifices sword heart directly suppressed Linghu Hong's sword-based Taoist rhyme. If Linghu Hong was not a veteran Honorable Supreme who was far stronger than Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries, he would not be able to withstand more than a few attacks from Chu Kuangren. I've long heard of how amazing Chu Kuangren is. But this level of strength is just too ridiculous. Even the young emperor of my Linghu family does not have such combat strength. I can't believe the Black Heaven sect has such a monster. Linghu Hong was extremely shocked. At that moment, Honorable Zhuo Lang, the Jade Watersword sect's senior elder, and Feng Wucheng also attacked Chu Kuangren together with Linghu Hong. In an instant, all kinds of Tao techniques shone brightly and shook the void. Not far away, Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it. His face turned pale as he watched Chu Kuangren, who was facing off against 4 Honorable Supremes all by himself. I can't believe this person is so strong. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries had seen all kinds of sky prides, but he swore that no one could compare to Chu Kuangren. I admit it, you are indeed worthy of being ranked first in the sword spectrum. But Xian Qi will definitely fail his tribulation today. While Chu Kuangren was busy dealing with 4 Honorable Supremes, Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries dashed towards Honorable Swordsman Xian Qi. The other party had just completed the third heavenly tribulation. What Venerable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries wanted to do was to exhaust the other party's stamina as much as possible so that the other party would fail the heavenly tribulation. During the battle, Chu Kuangren had also noticed Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries' whereabouts. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. "You're courting death, aren't you?" A black chain suddenly flew out of his body, streaking across the sky like a black bolt of lightning. Venerable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries, who was charging towards Honorable Xian Qi, felt a chill run down his spine. His scalp went numb and the blood in his body almost froze. Danger. It was extremely dangerous. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries quickly turned around and slashed with his sword. The sword chi hit the Soul Retriever and sent it flying. However, the Soul Retriever was a sage ruler weapon and was made of very special materials. Even a sage might not be able to damage it at all. The sword chi of Venerable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries could not destroy the chain. It circled in the air for a while and continued to attack him as if it had a consciousness of its own. What the hell is this thing? Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries dodged the Soul Retriever. His instincts told him that if he were to be hooked by the chain, he would not end up well. Chu Kuangren pulled the other end of the Soul Retriever and manipulated it to chase after Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries. The Soul Retriever was very special. It was as if it could extend indefinitely so it could catch up to Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries no matter where he ran to. Not long after, the length of the chain had reached more than 10 kilometers. It circled in the air and emanated a strange fluctuation. Not only that, but Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries was also trapped in the encirclement formed by the chain. The area where he could dodge was getting smaller and smaller. "Quick, stop him!" Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries yelled. Ling Hu Hong, Feng Wuchang, and the others hurriedly activated their ultimate techniques. Several different Taoist rhymes and majestic spiritual powers suddenly erupted. Soaring destruction. Torrential waves. Winds of impermanence. Ever-flowing emerald water. 3 surges of sword chi and 1 palm chi blasted towards Chu Kuangren. This was the combined attack of 4 honorable supremes, and it was extremely powerful. White lotus light of purification. Chu Kuangren stood still on the spot. Suddenly, white lotuses appeared around him and swayed in the air. It was a beautiful sight to behold. When the 4 surges of energy collided with the white lotuses, there was no earth-shattering explosion. The white lotuses were shattered one by one, but the techniques that Ling Hu Hong and the other 3 honorable supremes had unleashed were also disintegrated. Taoist rhymes and spiritual qi intertwined and collided in the air, and eventually, everything returned to nothingness. Not far away, Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries finally could not hide anymore. He was tightly entangled by the Soul Retriever, and the hook at the end of the chain pierced into his body. However, there was no sign of blood at all. The hook was like a large demonic hand that stirred in Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries' body. Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries first let out a tragic cry, and then his eyes gradually became empty. What's going on? There's something strange about this black chain. Ling Hu Hong and the others stared at Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries, and then they saw a scene that made their scalps tingle. They saw that the hook had actually grabbed another Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries' body. To be precise, it was his soul. Why is this happening? My physical body, what the hell is this thing? Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries watched helplessly as his soul was pulled out of his physical body. His face was filled with horror. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and activated the gluttonous devouring technique, sucking Honorable Swordsman of 1,000 Cries' physical body into the avarice dimension for refinement, turning it into an incomparably pure flesh and blood essence. The spiritual power that was originally more than half consumed was quickly replenished. This chain can target the soul. D*Eminent, why does he have such a thing? Ling Hu Hong and the others were so scared that their faces turned a little pale. Methods that targeted the soul were too rare and too terrifying. Kuangren really has a lot of treasures on him. I can't believe he even has such a weapon that targets the soul, Honorable Xian Qi murmured. Then he shook his head and smiled, not planning to ask about it later. He was sure that Chu Kuangren would only answer him with 2 words, and that was, opportunity of fortune. Although he knew that Chu Kuangren had secrets in his heart, the other party was also his good disciple, so Honorable Xian Qi chose to believe him unconditionally. Chu Kuangren held the Soul Retriever in one hand and the Descendant Self-Sword in the other as he looked at the few Honorable Supremes in front of him. From the moment you chose to come to the Black Heaven sect to stop my honorable teacher from ascension, you were destined to fail. Today my honorable teacher will successfully ascend and become a sage in the future, and all of you will stay here. Chu Kuangren said coldly and then pulled the soul retriever hard. Honorable swordsman of 1,000 cries' soul let out a heart-wrenching scream as cracks appeared on his soul. Then it exploded silently and his soul was scattered. No, this chain is too terrifying. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's combat strength cannot be underestimated. A long battle is disadvantageous. Looks like I can only use the item given by the third forefather. Linghu Hong gritted his teeth and then took out a small golden sword. A mysterious sword-based Taoist rhyme emanated from it. Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed a sword attack. A surge of Emperor's aura filled the air. It was the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique that had been upgraded to an Emperor technique. Faced with this attack, even a veteran Honorable Supreme like Linghu Hong could not withstand it. He yelled, "Third forefather, save me." Stop. A slightly angry voice came from the void. However, Chu Kuangren did not have any intention of stopping. He slashed his sword and a violent purple sword ray instantly engulfed Linghu Hong. A supreme being had perished and his Tao extinguished. The void trembled. A white-robed elder stepped into the void with a boundless aura. This person's aura was far stronger than an honorable supreme. This was the sage aura. He was a sage. I told you to stop, why didn't you? The white-robed elder stared at Chu Kuangren with anger in his eyes. Facing the sage aura, Chu Kuangren was neither humble nor arrogant. He deserves to die for coming to the Black Heaven sect and trying to disrupt my honorable teacher's ascension. That's right, he deserves to die. Behind Chu Kuangren, a white-haired elder slowly walked out. He patted Chu Kuangren's shoulder and smiled. Young man, you did well. You're right too. You should address me as third forefather. Third forefather? Black Heaven's third forefather. The sage behind the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren's expression turned serious. Greetings, third forefather. Hey, you're welcome. Black Heaven's third forefather smiled faintly and then looked at the white-robed elder in the sky. Third forefather Linghu, the juniors of your clan have come to Black Heaven sect to cause trouble. They deserve to die. What, do you still want to fight? You? Third forefather Linghu was speechless. They were in the wrong in the first place, but it was impossible for them to sit back and watch as the Black Heaven sect gained another sage. Initially, with him holding off Black Heaven's third forefather, Linghu Hong and the other honorable supremes, they would definitely be able to stop Honorable Xian Qi from ascension. Who would have thought that Chu Kuangren would appear? While the rest of the Black Heaven sect was busy dealing with other people, this young man could fight against 5 honorable supremes alone. At this moment, to third forefather Linghu, Honorable Xian Qi was far less of a threat than Chu Kuangren, who was only in the Battle Monarch realm. Black Heaven sect, you guys sure are lucky. Third forefather Linghu gritted his teeth and said, whether it was Honorable Xian Qi's ascension or having a disciple like Chu Kuangren, the Black Heaven sect could be considered lucky. However, it was not good news for the Linghu clan. Chapter 172. Boom. Another wave of heavenly tribulation descended. This was Honorable Xian Qi's 7th wave of heavenly tribulation. At this time, the power of the heavenly tribulation was extremely strong. Even the Thundersuther could not direct all of the power of the heavenly tribulation to the ground. After the 7th wave of heavenly tribulation descended, the majestic impact directly flattened the entire mountain, and the Thundersuther was also sent flying. At this point, Honorable Xian Qi was completely exposed to the heavenly tribulation. Everyone present stared at him without blinking. Third forefather Linghu was the same. Although the operation had failed, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he stayed to see if Honorable Xian Qi could successfully overcome the heavenly tribulation. Old friend, let's fight side by side again. Honorable Xian Qi held the purple star, and the sword-based Taoist rhymes on his body continued to rise. He had activated the heavenly crepe myrtle sword technique to the extreme. He looked at the 8th wave of heavenly tribulation that was accumulating power with a solemn expression. A beam of light descended and locked onto Honorable Qianqi. Immediately after, the eighth wave of heavenly tribulation descended, and the violent power it contained made Elder Rian and the others feel a wave of fear. Come. Honorable Qianqi raised his hand and slashed. A terrifying purple sword light surged out wildly. It was the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. He had successfully comprehended this sage ruler technique, and with his honorable supreme cultivation base, it seemed like the world was about to be torn apart. The sword light and lightning collided in the void. The terrifying shock wave spread out like a tide, wave after wave, constantly sweeping in all directions. Trees, rocks, and everything around them were destroyed. Honorable Qianqi was sent flying by the impact, and a huge pit was formed on the ground with countless cracks spreading out. In the pit, Honorable Qianqi's robe was torn, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. There were electric arcs jumping on his body, constantly destroying it. The power of the eighth wave of heavenly tribulation is beyond imagination. Honorable Qianqi murmured. Just one blow was enough to injure him quite a bit. With his current physical condition, he might not be able to overcome the last wave of heavenly tribulation. Third Forefather Linghu's eyes lit up. He kept cursing Honorable Qianqi for failing to overcome the heavenly tribulation. Honorable Qianqi stood up, took out a golden pill and swallowed it. A huge wave of medicinal power instantly swept through his limbs and bones. Waves of Taoist rhymes filled the air, and his injuries were rapidly recovering. Third Forefather Linghu was dumbfounded. This is a sage-to-be healing elixir? Third Forefather Linghu exclaimed in astonishment, that's not right. Even a quasi-sage healing pill doesn't have this kind of effect. This is at least a quasi-sage treasure pill, and it's at least a grade 7 treasure pill. There were not many alchemists in the entire firmament star who could refine sage-grade medicinal pills, let alone quasi-sage-grade supreme pills and above. Where did Xiantian's sect find such an alchemist? The pills refined by Kuangren are indeed very useful. Honorable Qianqi laughed heartily as sword qi emanated from his body. He was ready to face the ninth wave of heavenly tribulation with his full strength. Rumble, rumble, dark clouds surged and the power of lightning surged wildly. The light of heavenly tribulation locked onto Honorable Qianqi once again. A ferocious beast made of thick lightning energy crawled out of the dark cloud vortex. It looked a little like a dragon. The thunder dragon roared, and a terrifying aura emanated from it. Then the thunder dragon swooped down towards Honorable Qianqi. Wherever it went, the void trembled violently and the mountains and rivers trembled. This attack had reached the level of a sage's attack. Elder Rian and the others were worried. No wonder so many people are afraid of ascension. This ninth wave of tribulation is so powerful. How can an honorable withstand it? Only those veteran honorable supremes with deep foundations can withstand it. But there are still 8 more waves of tribulation before that. Ascension is indeed a narrow escape. Chu Kuangren, who was watching from the side, also broke out in cold sweat for Honorable Qianqi. He wished he could rush up and take his place. With his strength and immortal body he was not afraid at all. However, even if he rushed up, the power of tribulation would not let Honorable Qianqi go. There was a high chance that both of them would have to endure an even more terrifying power of tribulation. Heavenly tribulations were unavoidable and irreplaceable. In the face of this last wave of tribulation, Honorable Qianqi roared. He did not choose to draw his sword, but instead took out a bronze shield. The shield was placed horizontally in front of him and became huge, blocking the thunder dragon. All that was heard was a deafening explosion. Then cracks appeared on the shield. Honorable Qianqi's pupils shrank slightly. He did not expect that the item he had carefully prepared for ascension would not be able to withstand the ninth heavenly tribulation. The shield shattered, and the thunder dragon crashed into Honorable Qianqi's body like a hot knife through butter. He urged the sword qi in his body to resist, but there was still a large amount of lightning energy ravaging his body. At this critical moment, Honorable Qianqi bit the 2 rejuvenation pills that he had previously kept in his mouth. The medicinal power erupted and healed his body. It was like a tug of war, causing Honorable Qianqi to repeatedly jump on the edge of life and death. In the end, because Honorable Qianqi had preserved most of his spiritual power and physical strength, coupled with the medicinal power of the rejuvenation pills, he finally survived the last wave of tribulation. We did it. Ah, that's great. Elder Rian and the others were relieved and overjoyed. The dark clouds in the sky dissipated and were replaced by purple auspicious clouds. Between the firmament, waves of Taoist rhymes reverberated. Honorable Xianqi stood where he was. Suddenly, an incomparably mysterious feeling emerged in his heart, and the Taoist rhymes on his body continued to strengthen. At this moment, all the powerhouses in the world seemed to have sensed something and looked in the direction of the Black Heaven sect. Oh, someone has passed the heavenly tribulation. As long as this person doesn't die, another sage will be born in this world in the future. That's the direction of the Black Heaven sect. The Black Heaven sect is really lucky. Inside the Black Heaven sect, third forefather Linghu's expression was extremely ugly. He scoffed coldly and was about to leave. At this moment, a sage Taoist rhyme locked onto him, brewing a terrifying killing intent that made his heart skip a beat. It was Black Heaven's third forefather. You came just like that and now you plan to leave just like that? Don't you think the Linghu family has no respect for the Black Heaven sect? Humph, take it. Third forefather Linghu took out a yin and yang ring and tossed it to third forefather Black Heaven. Yo, 60 million upper-tier soul stones and 30 drops of heaven spiritual marrow. You're treating me like a beggar. Third forefather Black Heaven's expression turned cold. Don't go too far. These things are enough to cause countless orthodoxies to fight over them. Isn't that enough? Not enough. It's far from enough. Then what else do you want? The Black Heaven sect wants another spot for the sword gauntlet. Impossible. Third forefather Linghu said coldly. Very well, the Linghu family will lose a sage today. Third forefather Black Heaven said coldly. From afar, a terrifying burst of chi erupted from the depths of the Black Heaven sect and locked onto third forefather Linghu. Black Heaven's second forefather. That old fart isn't dead yet. Third forefather Linghu's expression changed. He then gritted his teeth and said with a pained expression, "Fine, the Linghu family will give you one more spot. Words alone are no proof. Swear on your Taoist core." The so-called Taoist core oath was to swear on one's Taoist core and let the great Tao bear witness to it. Once the oath was broken, one's Taoist core would be tarnished, making it difficult for one's cultivation base to improve. In the worst-case scenario, one would be haunted by inner demons and never be able to find peace for the rest of their lives. Even demonic cultivators were extremely wary of this Taoist core oath. Third forefather Linghu had no choice but to obediently swear on his Taoist core oath and leave in a sullen manner. This time, not only did the Linghu family fail to prevent the Black Heaven sect from gaining another boundary sage, but they also lost an honorable supreme, a large number of soul stones, and even an important spot. Chapter 173. Honorable Xianqi had completed his ascension and successfully entered the boundary sage realm. As long as he worked hard, becoming a sage was just around the corner. Xianqi, congratulations. Black Heaven's third forefather smiled at Honorable Xianqi. Haha, this is all thanks to Kuangren. Without him and the interference of the Linghu family, things would not have been so easy. Honorable Xianqi laughed. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a gratified look. This young man is indeed talented. I've asked the Linghu family for an additional quota for the sword gauntlet, so I'll let him lead the team. A quota for the sword gauntlet? That's great. Honorable Xianqi's eyes lit up. Beside him, Chu Kuangren was a little confused. This so-called sword gauntlet seemed to be very important to even the sages. However, he temporarily suppressed his doubts. Although Honorable Xianqi had completed his ascension, this matter was not over yet. Other than the Linghu family, there were also a few forces that came to Black Heaven sect to stir up trouble. The Black Heaven sect would not let these forces go. They would have to deal with them. Among them, the Jade Water sect was the strongest. It was an honorable orthodoxy that was second only to the sage orthodoxies. Naturally, the Black Heaven sect would not let them go. They immediately sent people to suppress this force, and the one leading them was Chu Kuangren. On the ferry boat, Chu Kuangren stood on the deck and looked at the sea of clouds. What a tiring life I have. I just finished dealing with the demonic onslaught in the Qian nation, and now I have to help my honorable teacher with his ascension. Now I have to suppress an honorable orthodoxy. How inhumane. He looked up to the sky and sighed helplessly. Beside him, the seventh forefather smiled and said, "The sect leader must have his reasons for doing this. Young man, do you know that now that the sect leader has stepped into the boundary sage realm, the next step is to slowly build up his foundation to become a sage? This is a long process. If there are no other opportunities, it could take a few hundred years or a few thousand years. The less disturbances the better. I'm afraid the sect leader has decided to retire. Chu Kuangren was stunned. If he retires, what will happen to the Black Heaven sect? Has the next sect leader been decided? He had only asked casually, but when he saw the seventh forefather staring straight at him, his heart skipped a beat. With a face full of bewilderment, he pointed a finger at himself. It can't be me, right? It's you. Damn, what kind of joke is this? You want me to be the sect leader? There are so many elders in the sect. Elder Ruyan would be fine too. You have enough prestige, enough power, and you're the only disciple of the sect leader. If I don't look for you, who else would I look for? The seventh patriarch laughed. I'm just a battle king. Tell that to the others and see who will believe you. The seventh forefather could not help but roll his eyes. Stop teasing me. You are a battle king, but you can hang a supreme honorable being up and beat him up. Sending you here to suppress the Jade Watersword sect is also a way for you to practice your skills and build up your reputation in the outside world. This will pave the way for you to ascend to the position of sect leader in the future, the seventh forefather continued. Sai will see. Chu Kuangren shook his head helplessly. Within the Jade Watersword sect, a few elders were pacing back and forth anxiously. What should we do now? According to the news, the great elder has been killed in the Black Heaven sect. The Black Heaven sect will not let us go. An elder said anxiously. We should have stopped the great elder back then and not allowed him to act on his emotions. Now he stirred up such a huge disaster. That's right. Let's think about how to deal with the Black Heaven sect first. How are we going to deal with them alone? Enough. At that moment, a woman in green robes shouted and stopped the crowd. She was the current sect leader of the Jade Watersword sect. What are you panicking for? The Jade Watersword sect will not perish. The Jade Watersword sect leader said coldly. Sect leader, do you have any ideas? Young Emperor Linghu is still here. He promised to protect the Jade Watersword sect. Let him handle this, the Jade Watersword sect leader said. The elders felt slightly relieved when they heard that. If they were to fight the Black Heaven sect alone, they would definitely lose. However, things would be different if young Emperor Linghu was included. The Jade Watersword sect represented the Linghu family, which was also a sage orthodoxy. Even the Black Heaven sect would have to think twice. In a garden of the Jade Watersword sect, a young man in a black robe was strolling with a smiling young lady. The young lady was very close to the young man and seemed to be on good terms with him. Big brother Linghu, thanks to your guidance, I've improved a lot. The young lady smiled. The young man in black robes had a gentle look in his eyes. It's my duty. All right, Lu Yin, I'll be returning to the Linghu family in a few days. Are you willing to go with me? The young lady was pleasantly surprised when she heard that. Really? Big brother Linghu, you're really willing to bring me back to the Linghu family? Of course. You're my woman. Where else would you go if not to the Linghu family? Don't worry, you're very talented. With my guidance, you'll definitely break through to the honorable level in a few years. Big brother Linghu, you're so good to me. Lu Yin hugged the young man in black robes, her eyes filled with tenderness. Ah, silly girl. Who else would I be good to if not you? The young man in black robes smiled. At that moment he frowned slightly. Not far away, a Jade Watersword sect leader slowly walked over and bowed. Greetings, young emperor. Lu Yin blushed and let go of the young man in black robes. She then said to the Jade Watersword sect leader, Sect leader, you're here. Yes, I have a favor to ask of you, young emperor. Speak, the young man in black robes said. The people from the Black Heaven sect are about to reach the Jade Watersword sect. With our current strength, it'll be difficult to stop them. I hope the young emperor can lend us a hand. Don't worry about that. My uncle has an agreement with the Jade Watersword sect. Although he's now dead in the Black Heaven sect, the Linghu family will still honor our promise. Besides, Lu Yin is here too. Big brother Linghu. Lu Yin was touched again. Thank you, young emperor. The Jade Watersword sect leader's eyes lit up. Then she thought of something and said, by the way, the person who brought them here is Chu Kuangren. A hint of surprise flashed across Linghu's young emperor's eyes. Chu Kuangren? The legendary Chu Kuangren who's ranked first in the 100-sword spectrum? Yes, that's him. Big brother Linghu, I've heard that this person is very powerful. Why don't you ask for help from your family? Lu Yin said worriedly. Although Linghu's young emperor was afraid of Chu Kuangren, he could not show his fear in front of his woman. He sneered and said, Chu Kuangren, I've long wanted to meet this person. Now that I have the chance today, how can I miss it? Let me see what he's made of. Looking at Linghu's young emperor's high-spirited look, Lu Yen could not help but admire him. Big brother Linghu, I believe you can defeat Chu Kuangren. In my heart, you're the strongest. That's only natural. At that moment, the ferry boat from the Black Heaven sect had arrived at the Jade Watersword sect's airspace. Many cultivators saw the flying flag on the ferry boat and knew that it was the ferry boat of the Sage Orthodoxy, the Black Heaven sect. There were also sword cultivators standing on the ferry boat. Every single one of them was emanating an extremely sharp sword chi, and they looked very imposing. Chapter 174. Those are the people from the Black Heaven sect. Why are they here? And why are there so many of them? What are they doing here? They're all sword cultivators. Heavens. 1, 2, 3. There's a total of 18 ferry boats, and there are at least 100 sword cultivators on each ferry boat. Judging from the way these sword cultivators are trained, they're the disciples from the Hall of Battle who are the best at combat in Black Heaven sect. What are they doing? This is the territory of the Green Water Sword sect. Do they want to start a war with the Jade Water Sword sect? Oh my god, this is big news. All the cultivators who saw the Black Heaven sect's ferry boats were scared out of their wits. Even though the ferry boats were far away from them, they could still feel the sword chi that filled the sky. It was too scary. On the ferry boat, a Hall of Battle disciple walked up to Chu Kuangren and said respectfully, "Elder senior brother, the Jade Water sect is just ahead." Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Understood. Not long after, Chu Kuangren had a full view of the Jade Water Sword sect. Surrounded by mountains and water, it was indeed a treasure land. Unfortunately, this treasured land was going to see blood today. Inside the Jade Water Sword sect, countless disciples saw the mighty Black Heaven sect's ferry boat and the sword cultivators with sharp sword auras. What's going on? Why are there people from the mysterious Sky sect here? And they don't look like they've come with good intentions. No way. The Jade Water sect is a top-notch honorable orthodoxy. Does the Black Heaven sect want to declare war on us? Why are you doing this for no reason? Most of the disciples had no idea that the Jade Watersword sect's Grand Elder had gone to the Shin Heaven sect to cause trouble. Only a few of the higher-ups were not surprised to see what had happened, and their expressions were grave. He's finally here. Whether or not the Jade Watersword sect can survive this ordeal depends on the will of the heavens. Buzz buzz. At that moment, the space above the Jade Watersword sect suddenly twisted. A huge light shield formed above the sect like an upside-down bowl. This is the great protective formation of the Jade Watersword sect. Many orthodoxies had similar mechanisms, but they were usually not used lightly. They would only be activated in times of crisis. This was undoubtedly a moment of life and death for the Jade Watersword sect. After the formation was activated, a green figure flew out. It was a beautiful woman, and she was none other than the leader of the Jade Watersword sect. Fellow Taoists of the Black Heaven sect, why have you come from afar? The sect master of the Green Water sect smiled faintly and asked despite knowing the answer. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and stepped out into the air. With every step he took, the sword-based Taoist rhymes on his body grew denser, crashing against the void like a tidal wave, crashing towards the sect master of Green Water. Below them, the Jade Water sect disciples saw Chu Kuangren. Although they were enemies now, they could not help but be attracted by Chu Kuangren's fairy-like appearance and extraordinary temperament. So this person is Chu Kuangren. He really is extraordinary. It is rumored that this person is ranked first in the 100-sword spectrum and has even killed a supreme being. His strength is extremely powerful. I never expected that he would personally come. Looks like this isn't a simple matter. Even the immortals in the heavens are only SOSO. Do you think it's too late for me to defect to the enemy? Among the crowd, Lu Yen had also noticed Chu Kuangren. A look of amazement flashed across her eyes. She then looked at the young emperor of Linghu beside him and felt that he was much better looking than Linghu. Despite thinking that, she let out a soft snort. You're just a man of appearance. Compared to brother Linghu, you're nothing. Linghu's young emperor felt much better upon hearing that. Lu Yen is right. A man of appearance is nothing compared to me. Yes, brother Linghu is the best. If the sect master of Green Water heard their conversation, she would definitely curse out loud. This was because compared to the others, she was more aware of how terrifying Chu Kuangren was. That terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme locked onto her, making her an honorable supreme shudder. Was this the Taoist rhyme that a man of appearance could possess? Bullsh*T. Rumor has it that Chu Kuangren's cultivation level is not high, but he can spar with a sage. How terrifying. The sect master of Green Water looked at the white-robed Chu Kuangren before her, and cold sweat broke out on her smooth forehead. Chu Kuangren looked at the sect master of Green Water sect and said indifferently, "You should know very well why we're here today. Now I'll give you two choices. 1. Submit to the Black Heaven sect and pay tribute every year. 2. Send the entire sect to hell." The sect master of Green Water sect's expression changed drastically when she heard the second choice. Isn't the Black Heaven sect a little too overbearing? Besides, what the senior elder did has nothing to do with us. It's all his doing alone. She then took out a letter. This was left behind by the senior elder before he left. It clearly states that he has completely severed all ties with the Jade Watersword sect, and that whatever he did has nothing to do with us. Chu Kuangren did not even bother to look at the letter. You can say whatever you want since the person is dead. Not to mention one letter, even if you take out 10 or 100 of them, who knows if they're fake or not. The senior elder's Taoist rhyme is on this letter. It can't be faked. Hey, it's just a Taoist rhyme. What can it prove? Even if he really did write this letter, why didn't the Jade Watersword sect announce it to the world at the first instance? Now that he's dead after causing a ruckus in the Black Heaven sect, you're only taking out this letter to shirk all responsibility? Do you really think it's that easy? Besides, if you're not guilty, why did you activate the sect's mega protective formation the moment we arrived? Chu Kuangren said coldly. The Jade Watersword sect's sect master's expression was extremely ugly. F***CK. How could we not activate the mega protective formation when you're making such a big fuss about it? What if you suddenly attack? Of course, the Jade Watersword sect's sect master knew that it was useless to say anything like that. Chu Kuangren's attitude was already clear. No matter what they said or what so-called evidence they brought out, the Jade Watersword sect only had two choices before them. They could either surrender and become a vassal, or they could destroy the entire sect. Haha, seeing is believing. Chu Kuangren's reputation is indeed well-deserved. Just then a burst of laughter rang out. Ling Hu's young emperor leaped into the air and exited the sect's mega-protective formation, arriving before Chu Kuangren. Suddenly, his expression changed and his pupils shrank as he stared at Chu Kuangren in fear. Only when he exited the mega-protective formation did he feel Chu Kuangren's terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme. His heart shuddered. The Jade Watersword sect is under the protection of the Ling Hu family. Ling Hu's young emperor also activated his Taoist rhyme and said coldly. Chu Kuangren glanced at him. You can represent the Ling Hu family? I'm the Ling Hu family's young emperor Ling Hu Teng. Do you think I can represent the Ling Hu family? Ling Hu Teng said proudly. Oh, so you're a young emperor. Chu Kuangren came to a sudden realization. He then raised his hand and unleashed a palm attack. The violent palm energy blasted Ling Hu Teng hundreds of feet away. If your sage can't even protect the Jade Watersword sect, what more a mere young emperor like you? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Chu Kuangren. How dare you attack me? Ling Hu Teng's expression was cold as ice. A sword appeared in his hand and he raised his hand to unleash a slash. An incredibly sharp Taoist rhyme emanated as thousands of sword chi converged into a tornado that rushed towards Chu Kuangren. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.